Snow whipped across the village as the wind rattled the shutters of a quiet tavern. Inside, warmth and laughter pushed back the storm. At one table, two men spoke in hushed tones. Rumors spread of a mercenary who fought like a lunatic, charging into every battlefield with eyes as empty as death itself. He never fought for money, and when the fighting ended, he vanished only to reappear at the next war. Witnesses claimed he always muttered the same chilling phrase as though mocking his own survival. Whispers grew darker. Some said he carried a grudge against the empire, others that he was once a prince of a fallen kingdom. The scene shifted to a blood-stained snowfield, where soldiers surrounded a wounded man slumped against a rock. His dark hair hung over a bloodied face, his gaze sharp despite exhaustion. Knights recognized him instantly. It was Yuri Briol, Third Prince of Briol, disgraced and wandering, searching not for victory but for a place to die. Once, his name had been spoken with reverence. Now it was tied to ruin. 10 years earlier, he had been a reckless youth. At 18, he gambled in crowded casinos, his grin as sharp as the dice he rolled. He won again and again as though luck bent to his will. The royal mage Hernando had watched him with suspicion, unable to understand how he always prevailed. Others saw only arrogance, and when accusations of cheating flared, chaos erupted. Yuri revealed his identity with brazen pride, declaring himself the Third Prince, a claim that only deepened the hostility around him. In those days, his arrogance was a spark ready to ignite into disaster. Far from Briol, in the shadows of the empire, another story unfolded. The imperial princess Ekaterina Ivarna Granstein walked a dangerous path of secret meetings and broken trust. What began as a fragile connection with Yuri ended in betrayal, symbolized by the necklace she cast aside. From that moment, the fragile balance between Briol and the empire fractured. Provocations grew, then spiraled beyond control. The empire's ambition became war. One night, the cry of invasion shook Briol awake. Flames devoured the capital. Towers collapsed into rubble, and the palace, once a symbol of strength, became an inferno. Yuri stood before it, dwarfed by fire and ash. What followed was a war that stretched on for years, endless and merciless. Briol's mightiest general, Yuri Briol, was gone, and with him vanished the last hope of resistance. The empire pressed its advantage without mercy. Villages were razed, armies scattered, and survivors pushed to the brink. Yuri fought on the battlefield with unrelenting ferocity, but his rage carried the weight of grief more than the will to live. To his soldiers, he looked less like a prince fighting for a kingdom, and more like a man seeking death. The toll grew heavy. Comrades fell one after another, their bodies left behind on the fields of ash. Among them was Laurent, who threw himself into the path of a blade meant for Yuri. His sacrifice tore a wound deeper than steel ever could. Yuri's grief turned into fury, and he cut down enemy after enemy, even as his soldiers begged him to retreat. They reminded him that his survival was the last thread holding Briol together. Dragged from the battlefield, he carried the sound of Laurent's final words in his ears like chains he could never break. As the war dragged on, Yuri's life became one long flight between battles. He fought through smoke and blood, fled through forests, and hid in warehouses with only shadows for company. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his burning home. Every step forward reminded him that he survived while others perished. Escape became duty, and survival became the only form of resistance left. Yet doubt gnawed at him. The timing of his father's absence, the sudden aggression of the empire, and Ekaterina's betrayal all pointed to a pattern too sharp to ignore. Desperation drove him to send letters, but the only reply he received was 2 words that broke him completely. "I'm sorry." No explanation, no hope, just despair on paper. From then on, Yuri's blade became an outlet for his torment. He threw himself into battle after battle, each swing fueled not by strategy but by guilt. To enemies, he was a demon in human form. To himself, he was little more than a ghost punishing his own existence. Rain often washed over him after the carnage, mingling with blood and mud, as if the world itself sought to erase the evidence of Briol's fall. He endured ambushes, encirclements, and desperate last stands. Each time he fought until his body failed, only to rise again when death passed him by. The more he survived, the less he understood why. All the sacrifices, all the blood spilled became harder to remember, harder to justify. The war blurred into one endless nightmare, and he wandered through it as both victim and executioner. When surrounded and outnumbered, his arms numb from exhaustion, Yuri realized his struggle resembled less a fight for life and more a search for death. Even as his men shouted for him to escape, he saw only the faces of those already gone. And when he ran, pursued by the Empire's soldiers, it was not victory he carried with him but the unbearable weight of failure. Through storm and fire, one truth became clear. Every life lost, every comrade buried had carved away at him until nothing remained but punishment. His ideals had burned away with his kingdom, leaving only guilt to drive him forward. The Empire had destroyed Briol through treachery, but Yuri carried the ruins inside himself. Even in defeat, he could not lay down the burden of his bloodline. His pride, his faith, and his very identity collapsed under the truth. And then, at the breaking point, came the echo of his name. The cry of Yuri Briol pierced the darkness. He jolted awake, drenched in sweat, chest heaving as the nightmare's echo clung to him like chains he could never escape. Yuri jolts awake, his body drenched in sweat, trembling as the nightmare still clings to him. His wide eyes dart across the dimly lit room until a voice cuts through the silence. "You haven't opened your eyes in 3 whole days." Startled, Yuri stiffens. At his bedside stands a tall figure, broad-shouldered, clad in a gold-trimmed uniform. Stern eyes, a black beard streaked with gray, and an aura of authority. "Are you all right?" the man asks, his voice deep, carrying both concern and command. Yuri's lips part. Father?" The word hangs heavy in the air. His father had been dead for years. Then how? His chest tightens, thoughts spiraling. Don't tell me. Did I end up in hell after all? Confusion twists in his mind. But then his father chuckles faintly, resting a warm, grounding hand over his son's trembling one. The touch feels real, painfully real. Memories stir, faded but familiar. Yuri manages a faint smile. "For someone who always preached honor, you certainly lived a wild life." The moment lasts only a heartbeat before, smack, his father's palm cracks against his head. "What nonsense are you spouting?" "Ugh," Yuri yelps, clutching his scalp. "Can't you drop that bad habit even in hell?" "Repent," his father roars, the command booming like thunder. The mix of warmth and irritation feels so vivid, so alive. It's as if the past itself is bleeding into this moment. Then Yuri's eyes snap open once more, his own name echoing in his ears. Yuri Briol. He gasps, confusion swirling. Was it still a dream or something more? The answer comes slowly. This is no dream. He has returned to the spring of his 13th year. The castle rises beneath blooming cherry blossoms, petals drifting in the sunlight. The air is warm, untouched by tragedy. At the dining table, laughter rings, parents and brothers together in a memory he thought forever lost. Now it is real again. Yuri Briol, the third prince, has been given a second chance. Curtains sweep open, flooding his chamber with golden light. A servant's voice calls gently, "Your Highness, it's time to get up." The boy stirs beneath the blankets. A new morning, and with it a new fate. But Yuri is not one to let doubt linger. He turns to Ina, the maid, and with an almost mischievous seriousness declares, "Slap me." 3 times. "Make it sting." Ina freezes, horrified. "What? That would be treason." Yuri only smirks. "It's not treason if it's my order." Reluctantly, she obeys. The sound of each strike cracks the air, leaving Yuri's cheek burning red. He winces, then mutters, "I forgot how strong Ina is. The pain is sharp, undeniable. This isn't a dream." Later, the palace training grounds ring with the clash of wood. Yuri stumbles back from Ina's strike as a few noble boys snicker on the sidelines. His irritation grows. No one believes in him, not even Bernard. Bernard, the man once known as the sword demon. His wooden blade moves with deadly precision, but his lessons lack spirit. Yuri remembers why. Years ago, he overheard Bernard speak in quiet disappointment. He has so much talent. If only he were diligent, he could have been a blessing to Briol. Pride wounded, the younger Yuri rebelled, stopped listening. Bernard gave up on him. Their training became empty. But now Yuri's grip tightens. His voice cuts through the courtyard. "Bernard," the swordsman pauses, eyes narrowing. "From today on," Yuri declares, determination blazing, "things will be different." Bernard studies him in silence. Then a faint smirk. Without warning, blue aura erupts around his blade, raw power crackling in the air. "Very well," he says, "then let us begin." Real training. He lunges. The impact shakes the courtyard. Yuri scrambles, blocking desperately as sparks of mana burst between their strikes. The pressure is crushing, the speed overwhelming. This isn't sparring, it's survival. Sweat streams down Yuri's face as he stumbles, barely keeping up. Blow after blow rains down until his sword is knocked free. He collapses onto the ground, gasping for air, and yet through the exhaustion a faint smile tugs at his lips. If I keep enduring this, I'll grow stronger. Bernard lowers his blade, pride flickering in his stern eyes. Your Highness, he says softly, a rare note of respect. Yuri, sprawled on the ground, meets his gaze, determined, unyielding. But the moment shatters when a maid bursts in breathless. Please hurry, Your Highness. His Majesty is looking for you. Confused, Yuri frowns. Why? She hesitates. Count Johannes and his son have arrived. Yuri's eyes widen. Memories flash. Flames, betrayal, the fall of the kingdom. The traitor who opened the gates. Goth Barkvar. His voice turns cold, each word sharp as steel. Ina? Yes, Your Highness? That boy. Where is he now? In the royal dining hall, golden plates and fine dishes lined a long table draped in red. The king sat at its head, surrounded by nobles and princes. The air was heavy with formality. All eyes drifted toward Yuri, the third prince. His calm composure drew murmurs. Some noted how much he had changed. His body stronger, his aura sharper. The king's remark was cold, wondering aloud if his son had eaten something unusual. Laughter followed, but beneath the surface tension simmered. One noble joked about sharing a meal with Yuri to gain his strength. Another snapped back that his own son was already clever enough, only to be dismissed as still lacking. At the far end, a prince admired Yuri in silence, even blushing, until Yuri's sharp glare crushed him with pressure like a storm. The boy froze, sweat beading on his forehead. The moment broke when one of Yuri's brothers leaned closer. He asked quietly if something had happened between Yuri and Goth. Yuri's hand tightened around his fork. Yes, that bastard stabbed me in the back. His brother smirked, teasing him. And you'll just let it go? The great Yuri Briol? Yuri said nothing, but his gaze pierced across the table. Goth shifted under the weight of it, irritation twisting his face. Memories of betrayal and fire flickered through Yuri's mind. This time, he thought, the past would not repeat itself. He turned to Goth with calm steel in his voice. I hear you're good with a sword. The boy fumbled, caught off guard. Before he could answer, Yuri's hand slammed against the table. You brat. The challenge spilled into the courtyard. The two boys faced each other with wooden swords. Yuri's voice was firm. The kingdom has no need for narrow-minded knights. Goth protested that he wasn't even a knight yet, but Yuri pressed forward. Aren't you destined to strive for the kingdom? Without warning, he attacked. The clash rang through the courtyard. Goth shouted that the surprise was cowardly, but Yuri's relentless strikes left no room to breathe. A blow across the cheek sent Goth stumbling. Desperate, he cried for chivalry. Then Yuri dropped his sword. Goth froze, confused, until Yuri dashed forward, striking with a swift kick that sent him sprawling. Standing over him, Yuri lowered his blade. His voice was cold. Goth Backbear, your father is a count and a respected knight. Do you understand what that title is for? Who gave him that power? Goth stammered, unable to answer. Yuri's gaze hardened. In this life, he would ensure no knight of Briol carried weak thoughts, not even himself. When the duel ended, Yuri clasped Goth's hand. From now on, see the essence of every situation. Think carefully about the meaning of these words. Goth turned away, silent. Later, his older brother teased him with a grin. Are you really that strong? Honestly, I thought you'd lose. Yuri gave him a flat look. What on earth do you take me for? The reply came quick. Our kingdom's biggest troublemaker and gambler. Yuri's face grew serious. I'm not going to be like that anymore. So you should stop causing trouble too. The unexpected words left his brother stunned. Yuri smiled faintly to himself. Have I really gone crazy? Training continued into the evening. Exhausted, Yuri collapsed to the ground. His instructor approached, telling him it was time to learn a mana method. Yuri was surprised, but Bernard explained it would not be his own. Instead, he recommended the Briloan method, pure, efficient, and worthy of royalty. Yuri remembered mastering it in his past life as a mercenary. But this time, he wanted more. He asked Bernard to recommend someone from the royal guard with outstanding aptitude. Bernard thought carefully, then spoke. If we speak only of aptitude, Gerard is exceptional. Memory stirred. In his past life, Jared had survived until the very end of the war. Barely. His skills were poor, his body untrained, his desperation wasted on raw potential left untouched. Yuri recalled standing beside him in the inferno, both of them nothing but rusted swords. Now, reborn with knowledge of what was to come, Yuri's resolve sharpened. He would not waste that potential again. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, Yuri rose with determination. "Well then," he murmured with a faint smile, "shall we pay our slacker knight a visit?" Inside the training grounds, a blond knight gripped his sword, preparing himself. From a distance, Yuri watched, his lips curving into a subtle, knowing smile. The evening sky deepened into shades of crimson and violet, the last light of the sun spilling across the castle walls. From a balcony overlooking the training grounds, two knights stood watch, their armor faintly glowing in the twilight. Below them, the courtyard rang with the sharp crack of wooden swords. Soldiers locked in practice matches, their voices rising in grunts and laughter. The third prince appeared, his confident stride drawing immediate bows. "Your Highness," a knight greeted respectfully. "What brings you here?" "I came to see how the training is going," the boy replied, his tone light but his gaze sharp. Down below, the soldiers sparred with passion, but the prince's eyes narrowed. "Indeed. They seem motivated," he muttered, then asked the question that made the knights exchange uneasy glances. "Where is Jared?" The recruit stood out quickly, his blade moving with skill but without effort, his footwork cautious, almost lazy. He did just enough to avoid defeat, nothing more. The prince frowned. So Bernard was right. He's only pretending to train, already rusting before he's even begun. The air shifted when the prince requested a wooden sword. He pointed directly at Jared. "That one. I'll spar with him." Gasps rippled through the courtyard. Jared stiffened as heads turned toward him. He stepped forward reluctantly while the prince moved with calm confidence. The two met in the center, golden light from the high windows casting long shadows across the floor. From the sidelines, comrades shouted encouragement. "Newbie, don't embarrass yourself." Another added with a grin, "Stay sharp." The prince's voice cut through the noise, steady and cold. "Jared, show me what kind of knight you are." Jared hesitated before muttering, "Fine." Their blades met in an explosive clash, the crack echoing like thunder. At first, Jared's movements impressed. His strikes were sharp, his timing precise, his defense solid. "As expected of Jared," one knight exclaimed. But the prince's expression never faltered. He met every strike seamlessly, adjusting to Jared's rhythm with unnerving ease. Their swords locked together, sparks of friction flying. The prince tilted his head, lips curling in a taunt. "Not fun, is it? This is nothing but a performance." With sudden force, he shoved Jared back. "Let's do it properly now." The duel escalated. Jared gritted his teeth, attacking harder, his blade slicing through the air with fury. Sparks burst with each clash. The prince staggered under a heavy blow but held firm, eyes blazing. "Even against a knight, I will land at least one hit." He launched forward with explosive speed, his wooden blade crashing down. Jared stumbled, stunned by the impact. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "He hit him?" one soldier cried in disbelief. Cheers erupted. "Your Highness, that was amazing." The boy straightened, smiling with pride. "That's more like it." His breathing was heavy, but his spirit was unbroken. Jared's unease deepened. Though he pressed the attack, it felt as if he was being cornered. What is this? I'm the one attacking, yet he's the one in control. Frustration burned. Energy crackled across his blade. A sudden surge of blue aura flared to life, shocking the arena. "He's using a mana sword?" Knights shouted in panic. "Against the prince?" Even Jared froze at what he had done, but the prince didn't flinch. Calmly, he unwrapped his bandages, gripping his sword tighter. "Pick up your weapon." Steel and mana collided, the hall trembling with each impact. Sparks and blue light scattered wildly as the two pushed harder. The prince's lips curled into a dangerous smile. "Now this is getting fun." Every strike grew sharper, faster, heavier. Jared drove forward with raw strength, his aura surging. Yet the boy didn't falter. He matched him blow for blow, his determination burning brighter with each clash. The knights on the sidelines shouted in disbelief. He's forcing himself beyond his limit. The sight was unlike anything they had ever seen. The duel reached its peak, wood against mana, sparks flying, sweat dripping, eyes locked. Their blades clashed and held, their faces inches apart. And in that moment, Jared's thoughts rang in disbelief. This isn't training. He's driving himself past the point of breaking, just to surpass me. The storm of their duel roared on, shaking the arena, and one truth became undeniable. The third prince was no ordinary boy. He was a force that refused to yield. The grand hall was thick with heat and smoke, the air trembling as two warriors faced each other. Broken tiles and splintered wood already littered the ground, proof of how far their duel had gone. Jared gripped his blade so tightly his knuckles turned white, sweat streaming down his cheek. It feels like the blood in my veins is boiling, he thought, heart pounding like a drum. With a surge of adrenaline, he charged. Every spar he had ever fought, every opponent he had ever faced flashed through his mind, but never had he felt like this. Not even against someone stronger. Why does it feel different now? The young prince met him head-on, eyes blazing with resolve. Bruised, battered, but grinning as though the fight itself gave him life. Their blades collided with a deafening clang, sparks flying, echoing against the walls like thunder. Jared's chest tightened. This boy, how can he fight like this? Each strike pressed harder, stirring something deep inside him. It was frustration, awe, and something dangerously close to respect. Damn it, he roared, veins bulging as his mana flared to life. Blue flames wrapped around his weapon, flooding the hall with crackling light. With both hands he swung down furiously. The impact exploded across the chamber, stone cracking, wood splintering, dust clouding the air. When the blast faded, Jared stood frozen, chest heaving, the aura around his blade flickering weakly. Across from him, the young prince remained standing, bruised and covered in dirt. He exhaled slowly, then lifted his head with a faint, defiant smile. It's over. The words struck harder than any blow. Jared's pride wavered, his silence betraying his disbelief. Then the boy lowered his sword and extended his hand. I've learned something from you, Jared. The knight blinked in surprise before awkwardly reaching out. No, thank you. You've worked hard. His thoughts swirled in turmoil. That intensity, that resolve. I've never felt anything like it. How can someone so young fight with such unyielding will? But before the moment could linger, a voice barked from the sidelines. What are you doing? The prince is bleeding from the head. Jared, startled, panicked. I'm sorry. He let go instantly, bowing before rushing off. The boy chuckled faintly, muttering, Don't just freeze like that. Then exhaustion finally claimed him. He collapsed onto his back, staring up at the cracked ceiling. Breathing heavily, he whispered, Who? Above, soldiers erupted in cheers. Your Highness! That was incredible. Fists were raised high, the sound of their celebration filling the chamber. From the balcony sand, the captain of the royal guard stepped forward. His sharp eyes studied the boy lying below, taking in every detail. The prince looked up in surprise. Captain, when did you arrive? Just now, came the calm reply. There, beneath the golden lights of the hall, the young prince lay sprawled across the floor, exhausted, but victorious. His broken sword rested at his side, a symbol of both weakness and unyielding strength. Days passed. The storm of battle gave way to peace, the palace once again filled with sunlight. Birds wheeled above its gleaming spires, fountains glittered in the gardens. Through the marble colonnade walked Jared, his steps heavier than before, his posture sharper. His eyes caught the figure waiting ahead. You're off duty now, right? The boy called casually. Third Prince, Jared muttered, caught off guard by his presence. The prince smirked, leaning against a pillar. Good, come with me, we've got somewhere to be today. I still need to train, Jared replied stiffly. You've already come to your senses, the boy cut him off, his voice confident. That's thanks to me. You should repay the favor. Jared sighed, defeated by the boy's boldness. Understood. They walked side by side. Jared frowned. Where exactly are we going? Just follow me quietly, the prince answered, his tone both casual and commanding. Then his eyes gleamed mischievously. Don't worry. I'm bringing one more person. He cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted, Ay! From a distance, a figure turned, a man with silver hair and a flowing black cloak. Hernando, Royal Mage of Briol, Hernando, the boy called. The mage raised an eyebrow, clearly unamused. What is it, Your Highness? We've got somewhere to go. Assist me, the prince ordered firmly. Hernando scratched his head. I'd like to, but I've got pressing business. I'll pay off your gambling debt, the boy interrupted coldly. The mage froze, eyes widening. Are you serious? Yes. Everything you lost to me, wiped clean. Hernando pulled out a folded paper with a sly grin. Then let's put it in writing. The boy's expression fell flat. Is the name of the third prince really worth so little? He buried his face in one hand, muttering in frustration. Jared, he snapped suddenly. You vouch for me. The knight stiffened under the sudden pressure. Understood. Satisfied, the mage chuckled. Well then, shall we be off, Your Highness? The boy's gaze hardened, his words cutting sharp. Our destination is Sword Mountain. Jared and Hernando stiffened in shock. The prince lowered his chin, lips curling into a determined smile, the jewel at his chest catching the sunlight. From this moment on, his eyes blazed with conviction. We're going to raid the Founder's dungeon. The stone corridor stretched endlessly beneath the earth, its damp bricks breathing out the chill of centuries. Cobwebs clung to the ceiling, vines crawled across the walls, and the flicker of a lone torch was the only light against the darkness. Jared held the torch high, sweat glistening on his brow despite the cold air. I didn't even know a path like this existed beneath the royal palace, he muttered uneasily, the shadows stretching long behind him. His voice bounced down the passage before he asked, Your Highness, what's at the end of this cave? Yuri, walking ahead with calm, unwavering steps, answered firmly, It leads to Sword Mountain. Jared nearly stopped. Sword Mountain? The one from the legends about the Founder himself? Yes, Yuri replied, his tone leaving no room for doubt. His thoughts weighed heavier than his words. In another life, after Briol had fallen, the Empire uncovered a dungeon there, said to be the Founder's legacy. Back then it had been nothing but an escape route for him, a path of survival that left the true inheritance in enemy hands. This time would not be the same. His jaw tightened. Unlike the past, I will not flee. I will move forward. The corridor eventually gave way to sunlight. A heavy stone door groaned open, vines snapping as Yuri pushed it aside. Beyond lay a vast forest, Sword Mountain looming in the distance. Hernando's eyes narrowed as he followed them out. So this is where Sword Mountain begins? By the way, Your Highness, that door, it looked like an artifact. Where did you even get the key? Yuri's gaze hardened. You don't need to know. Hernando's mouth twitched. Right, of course. As they walked, Hernando brushed against a thicket of thorned leaves. He yelped, jerking back as blood welled on his hand. Ah, it stings. Be careful, Yuri ordered, sharp and unbothered. The leaves here are dangerous. Don't get careless in nature, 1. Hernando, 0. The forest thickened, the air heavy with damp earth. Branches snapped as the three made their way forward. Hernando leaned close to Jared, whispering with suspicion, Has the prince eaten something strange lately? Jared shrugged, half amused. It seems like it. Are you two not coming? Yuri's voice rang back, impatient and cutting. Leaves whipped behind him as he strode ahead. Hernando sighed. Some things never change. Suddenly, Yuri stopped cold, raising his hand. Quiet. From the shadows, low growls rumbled. Pairs of glowing eyes appeared one by one until a full pack of direwolves stepped into view, their teeth bared. They're pack animals, Yuri said calmly. Expect more of them. Hernando blinked, bewildered. How did you even know that? I read it in a book. A book? Hernando sputtered, frozen in disbelief. They tried to slip past quietly. For a moment it seemed they might succeed, until Hernando stepped down hard. Crack. The sound snapped the forest into chaos. Wolves lunged from the brush, snarling, fangs glistening. Hernando froze, stammering, ah, before Jared burst forward. Mana flared bright blue along his sword as he cut the first beast down in a single strike. Blood sprayed the leaves as the body hit the ground. Impressive, Yuri noted sharply, his tone calm but approving. You knew their fur was tough and used mana. Well done, but... His expression hardened. This is far from over. The largest of the wolves stepped forward, eyes glowing like molten fire. Its howl shook the trees, summoning more of its pack. Shadows poured in, their snarls filling the clearing. Jared raised his sword again, mana flames roaring along the blade. Stay close behind me! The clash exploded. Two wolves lunged together, claws raking through the air. Jared roared, his blade blazing as he cleaved through them in a single arc. Blood and sparks filled the clearing, yet the pack was relentless. Wolves circled from all sides, their eyes gleaming in the firelight. Jared's sword cut left then right, meeting fang with steel, but each strike cost him strength. Sweat ran down his face, his arms trembling from the sheer weight of the fight. Just as the circle tightened, Hernando finally stepped forward. His palms lit up, flames spiraling into the night. Orbs of fire ignited around him, spinning like miniature suns before launching outward. The battlefield erupted in firestorms. The wolves howled, their bodies scorched as Jared cut through those that remained. Sword and flame collided with fang and fur until the clearing blazed with smoke and blood. When silence returned, Jared stood panting, his sword dripping with mana residue. Hernando lowered his hand slowly, the fire fading to embers. "He fights well," Hernando muttered, impressed despite himself. Yuri's eyes narrowed, his voice calm but unshaken. "Yes, but even that isn't enough." At last the forest opened to a cliffside. Sword Mountain rose in the distance, painted gold and crimson by the sinking sun. Jared frowned. "Is this really it?" "It doesn't look special." Yuri crouched, his gaze sharp. A faint glimmer caught his eye in the dirt. "Found it." He brushed aside soil to reveal a red gem set in the hilt of an ancient weapon. Jared rushed forward. "Your Highness?" "We need to pull it out," Yuri said firmly. Together they heaved. Dirt fell away as an ancient blade rose free, gleaming as though untouched by time. The gem pulsed, glowing faintly. A word shimmered across the steel: "Guilty." All three stared in silence before the ground shuddered beneath their feet. Cracks spread like lightning across the cliff. Stones split. Jared's eyes widened. "Should we find out now?" The earth gave way and the three were swallowed by the abyss below. A scream echoed through the cavern, cut short as silence swallowed the stone hallway lit by faint blue crystals. The young prince stirred, his eyes opening to find himself sprawled across Jared's chest. Nearby, Hernando groaned, his body faintly outlined in mana, sword discarded at his side. He had shielded them at the last second, and the prince, though impressed, couldn't resist the jab. Impressive. Glowing orbs floated up as the silver-haired mage chuckled, cloak swaying. "Wow, it's deeper than I thought." His casual tone grated against the tension. Yuri's frown cut through the air. "Did you ignore the prince's safety just to protect yourself?" The mage laughed nervously. It was urgent." Before more could be said, a sharp click echoed. Red light pulsed in the stone ahead. The mage pointed. "Prince, look." But Yuri's cold reply came first. "If this is a distraction, it won't work." The glow twisted into motion, red streaks tearing the air. "It's a ghost," the mage yelped. From the shadows emerged a towering figure clad in corroded armor, cloak tattered, eyes burning crimson. "A death knight," Yuri muttered grimly, sweat rolling down his cheek. "Jared, get up," he barked. Half-conscious, Jared groaned. I said get up." The force of his voice snapped the night awake. Jared stumbled to his feet just as the figure advanced, its oppressive aura filling the chamber. "Prince, step back. I'll take care of this." Yuri raised a brow. "Oh, wow. Took your time." The Death Knight's steps boomed closer, blood-red mist spilling from its armor. The boy whispered again, sharper this time. "Death Knight?" Once a knight, now reborn stronger in death than life, but Yuri's voice stayed calm. "It's fine. This one isn't dangerous." "How can you be so sure?" Jared demanded, blade raised, sweat dripping. "Because I can feel it," Yuri replied. This was no ordinary monster. This was the guardian of their ancestors' dungeon. Why would it harm the bloodline of Briol? The Death Knight stared, silent. Then suddenly his gauntleted hand gripped his weapon and swung. "Prince!" His allies screamed. The strike split the stone, the entire chamber shaking. Gasps followed. One companion even muttered, horrified, "I can't believe the prince's head got split in half." Yuri turned, hair trimmed but head intact, glaring. "Watch your mouth," the Death Knight's eyes flared crimson. That arrogant attitude. Just like his. Yuri narrowed his gaze. "Who's he?" The name fell like a curse. Yuri Briol. Both companions froze. The boy's voice steadied. Yuri Briol, the first king. The swordsman who conquered the continent with a single blade. The founder of our kingdom. Tension gripped the cavern. The Death Knight spoke again. Unless one bore Briol's blood, the ancestral sword could never be drawn. Yuri looked at the blade in his hand, realization dawning. This truly was the supreme treasure of their founder. His grip tightened when a chilling voice cut through the air. "I used it," Yuri flinched. The Death Knight leaned closer, hollow words dripping like ice. "The fact that you used it, that's what's frightening." The boy forced a nervous apology. Sorry, for touching something that isn't mine. But crimson eyes bored into him. Heir of Briol, state your reason for coming here. Summoning every ounce of resolve, Yuri's voice rang out. I am Yuri Briol, heir of Eric Briol and the third prince of this era's Briol. Pass his legacy to me. The Death Knight studied him in silence, then turned his back, cloak billowing. The time has come. I must fulfill my duty. Yuri followed, chest tight, determination blazing. And then came the words that shook the cavern. I shall give you what you seek. Jared trailed behind uneasily, thoughts racing. A Death Knight talking to them, leading them. This was nothing like the guard life he had signed up for. Jared. Yuri's sharp call snapped him out of it. The boy stood bathed in crystal light, gaze steady. What are you doing? Jared stammered, caught between visions of fire and the prince's voice dragging him back. He whispered, trembling. Prince, but you're not coming? Yuri pressed, already moving forward. Light suddenly burst through the cavern, blinding them. The Death Knight's voice thundered, You are worthy. When Yuri opened his eyes, he was alone. The cavern was gone, replaced by a barren plain under a burning sky, jagged peaks rising in the distance. The ancestral blade hung at his side, heavier than ever. His breath caught. Where am I? The trial had only just begun. He walked forward across the wasteland until a silhouette appeared on the horizon. Against the sun stood a man with a sword. Yuri's heart raced. The Founder? He whispered, before his instincts screamed. The figure slammed into the earth, dust exploding, the ground shaking. That's not human, Yuri gasped, bracing himself. The creature lunged, blade raised high. Steel met steel, Yuri barely holding back the strike. Ugh, then light flared. A sword of pure energy took shape in the creature's hands, glowing with deadly brilliance. Yuri's eyes widened in awe and dread. A mana sword? The true trial had begun. Yuri froze, eyes wide as realization crashed over him. This is mana method! Before him, the faceless figure pressed glowing mana into its chest, forming a radiant core that pulsed like a second heart. Blue energy erupted outward, wrapping its entire body and blade in crackling light. Yuri's grip tightened on his sword, sweat trickling down his temple. It's showing me the way to wield mana itself. The figure lifted a finger, almost like a teacher giving instructions mid-lesson. Yuri blinked, baffled. Wait, you actually expect me to copy this? Right now? In the middle of a fight? He let out a shaky laugh. Our founder was seriously insane. And honestly, who trains like this? No manuals, no lectures, just watch me swing a glowing sword and figure it out. Real motivational stuff. The boy steadied his breath, eyes fixed on the glowing warrior. Training someone who hasn't even learned mana yet, by throwing them into live combat. It was madness. But maybe only someone with 2 lifetimes could survive this kind of madness. Someone like him. Dropping to one knee, he pressed his palm to the ground. Streams of light coiled up his arm, flickering unsteadily. Was it like this? He muttered. Mana shimmered faintly across his skin, trembling under his control. Hey! The faceless figure barked, snapping him back. Yuri clenched his teeth, lifting his sword as sparks danced across the blade. I'm still confused, he admitted, determination blazing in his eyes, but fine. Let's do it properly. The faceless opponent grinned, raising its own radiant weapon. Yuri tightened his stance, voice low but burning with conviction. I have to get stronger. Because sooner than anyone thinks, the Empire will invade Briol. The vision twisted. Dark skies drowned in blood-red light. A shadowed figure appeared, green eyes glowing with menace, an army behind him. His voice thundered. This time, no matter what it takes, I'll crush them. Blades of mana erupted across the battlefield, entire ranks collapsing beneath waves of blue fire. Yuri clenched his own weapon, eyes blazing. I'll absorb it all, he shouted, charging forward into the storm. Darkness swallowed everything. His vision narrowed, then opened into a massive training hall lined with dummies, racks of weapons, and glowing lanterns. A training ground? Jared muttered, stepping forward cautiously. His boots echoed in the silence until a shadow moved. Jared raised his blade but froze. Standing before him was himself. A doppelganger, he whispered, shock tightening his chest. The clone smirked. Jared, don't defy your fate. Of course. Because nothing says ancient magical trial like fighting your own evil twin. At this point, it's basically a rite of passage. The double sneered. Didn't you join the royal guard just to live a comfortable life? Stay away from the third prince. The more you resist, the more miserable you'll become. For a moment, Jared faltered. Once he might have agreed. But now his resolve burned brighter. His voice cut like steel. Is it because you're a fake that you don't get it? Once a sword is swung, it can't be taken back. Dwelling on it only weakens you. The doppelganger's mana blade flared. Such arrogant thoughts. The air crackled as the two Jareds clashed, their strikes exploding in showers of sparks. The battle raged. How monotonous. The clone taunted mid-swing. Defense without risk, nothing but fear. Jared's eyes narrowed. Memories surged, his own doubts, his wasted potential. His teeth clenched. Back then, I really was boring. With a roar, he leapt high, blade glowing fiercely. So damn boring. He came crashing down, his strike tearing the false image apart in a violent flash. The fake shattered into fragments, but instead of vanishing, it melted into grotesque slime. The ooze writhed, rising into a massive, hideous beast. Jared groaned, sweat running down his cheek. Great, from evil twin to slime monster. Real original. He steadied his blade, fire burning in his eyes. The prince must be fighting through his own trial by now. He raised his glowing sword high. Then I'll overcome mine as well. Meanwhile, Yuri staggered against shattered stone, body trembling. His faceless opponent advanced, radiant sword raised. The boy's wide eyes followed every step until the blade came crashing down. A violent surge of mana exploded on impact, flooding the battlefield in blinding blue light so intense it swallowed everything. The trial had only just begun. The young prince stood cornered against the shattered rock wall, breath ragged, his sword shaking in his hands. Dust and mana still swirled through the cavern, painting the battlefield in a haze of blue light. The faceless warrior advanced slowly, each step ringing with menace, its glowing blade lifted high. The strike came crashing down with enough force to split the mountain, but Yuri's eyes flared with defiance. Mana surged violently through his veins, his body screaming under the weight of it. With a roar, he swung upward, his sword blazing, colliding head-on with the descending strike. The cavern erupted. The ground tore apart, dust and sparks swallowed everything. Yet when the haze cleared, Yuri was still standing. His chest heaved, sweat dripping, but his stance was no longer that of a cornered boy. The battlefield had taught him, each clash carving deeper instinct into his body. The trial wasn't training anymore. It was survival, and survival had forged him. For a heartbeat, he thought he was finally keeping pace. But then cracks spread across the faceless figure's body. Chunks of stone fell away as its form dissolved into glowing streams of light. It's disappearing, he muttered softly. His lips curved faintly. So it's time, huh? Thank you. Gratitude filled his chest, but it ended with a wince. Pain surged through him, forcing his eyes shut. When he opened them again, silence pressed in. Cold, heavy, absolute. Alone, sword trembling in his hand, Yuri understood. The trial was far from finished. Elsewhere, Jared blinked awake, gasping. His palms trembled. Did I just return? A deep voice answered from the crystal throne. Seems like you had a good dream. Jared squinted at the armored figure. What was that? It was Eric's arrangement, the cloaked knight said, his words echoing against the stone. A legacy meant for Briol's descendant, Yuri thought bitterly. In his past life, Sword Mountain had been crushed by the Empire. No heir had made it this far. Raising his blade, he pressed. Did the founder himself use this mana method? No. It was Eric's last creation, born of his enlightenment wandering the east. You are the first to inherit it. Then why not leave it to the family directly? Because this dungeon doesn't open until the time is right. And it has opened now. The words carried a finality that left the chamber colder. Yuri lowered his eyes to the shimmering sword in his hand. What's its name? Simonchum Soul Severance, the knight intoned. The name etched itself into Yuri's heart. Yuri Briol, the figure commanded. Kneel. The boy dropped to one knee. The gauntlet pressed against his head as the vow resounded. Never fear your enemies. Yes. Follow what you believe in. Yes. To the very end, fulfill Briol's duty. Yes, then came the agony. Power surged violently through his body, searing like fire against his soul. He cried out, his body arching under the weight of his ancestors' oath. Remember, the knight thundered, voice fading into light. Briol never abandons its honor, even if it costs life itself. Yuri's eyes glowed faint red as the vow sealed into his core. Morning sunlight poured into the palace. A maid swept open the curtains, chirping, "Your Highness, it's morning." Yuri stirred, pressing his forehead. I stopped by the archives last night." "The archives?" she asked, surprised. His mind drifted back to the dusty records, lines about Eric Briol's sibling, one who abandoned honor and disappeared. Now Yuri knew that sibling had become the Death Knight who guided him. Later, guards escorted him down torchlit corridors. One knight glanced back. "Your Highness, I'll report everything to His Majesty." Yuri's jaw tightened. Do you have to?" The knight smirked faintly. "Yes, I feel like I should." And here's the part where every viewer collectively sighs. Nothing like being joyfully ratted out before breakfast. In the throne room, golden chandeliers glowed above as his father's sharp eyes locked onto him. "Hernando told me everything," the king said coldly. "You snuck out, reached the founder's dungeon? And that sword. That's what happened," Yuri admitted. The king rose from his throne, listing names with disdain. "Your maid Bernard sent, even Hernando. All say you've changed. What changed you?" His hand pressed against Yuri's head. "Speak." Sweat gathered as Yuri tried to step back. "It's because Your Majesty clenched your fist." The king lowered his hand, humming quietly. "I see." "Then speak." Yuri swallowed hard. "I had a dream." Suspicion flickered in his father's eyes. "A dream?" The sunlight cut through the hall, wrapping around the young prince as he lifted his gaze, unflinching. His voice rang steady, every word heavy with resolve. "Yes. In that dream, I committed a great sin." The silence that followed was suffocating, the weight of his words echoing through the vast chamber. The boy finally spoke, his voice steady despite the crushing weight behind his words. He admitted that in his dream, he had committed the gravest sin of all, the sin of failing to protect Briol until the very end. He described how the kingdom fell into ruin, consumed by a great war. The streets ran red with blood and countless lives were lost in a brutal massacre. He had tried to prevent it, but every effort ended in vain. In the end, Briol collapsed, its legacy smothered by flames, and he, stripped of honor, fled in disgrace. His tale ended with the bitter image of himself dying in misery, a man broken by failure and shame. As he recalled waking from that nightmare, another chilling detail emerged. The necklace his mother had once given him, a cherished token, had vanished. The thought struck him like ice. Maybe that dream wasn't just a dream at all, but a warning from his late mother. Looking straight at his father, he voiced this belief, his tone firm yet carrying a trace of unease. The king listened in silence, his piercing gaze never wavering before asking the most crucial question: what exactly had destroyed the kingdom in that dream? The boy froze. Sweat slid down his temple as he struggled to answer. His lips parted, but hesitation weighed him down. The truth hovered right there on his tongue. Dangerous foreboding, impossible to fully admit. Inside, his thoughts sharpened. It's too soon to mention the Empire. If I reveal it now, it may twist everything. And if I'm truly rewriting the past, perhaps their invasion might never happen at all. Out loud, he steadied himself. I'm not certain. It was a black army of unknown origin. The king's stern expression softened. A faint, almost amused smile crossed his lips. I see. Whether it was just a nightmare or a message from Lily herself, I'm glad you've gathered your resolve. The boy lowered his eyes, the thought heavy in his chest. Resolve? No, I'm just desperately struggling to atone for my sins. The image of crimson fire and disgrace lingered, haunting him still. Then his father's calm but commanding voice cut through the silence. There's one more matter. Bring your sword. The hall shifted, and before him hung a great portrait, framed by heavy crimson curtains. The man depicted stood tall, regal, sword clasped in both hands. Yuri Briol, a legend etched into the kingdom's history. A man said to have held a sword since the moment he could walk, gaining every possible first in his lifetime. Around him, the corpses of monsters once littered the battlefield. His name was carved into the continent itself, remembered as one of the top 10 strongest, and even then, he was judged closest to the very peak. In other words, he was considered the greatest swordmaster the continent had ever known. The boy stood frozen in awe. This is my first time in Father's personal training hall, he whispered. His father's profile cut sharply through the air. I never thought any of my sons had the talent for the sword. The boy lowered his gaze, but his voice carried quiet conviction. I believe I might have some talent. A faint smirk tugged at the king's lips. Talent, huh? Without warning, his massive blade rose, pointing straight at his son. The boy stiffened as the cold edge gleamed before him. What exactly is a swordsman's talent? Fiore demanded. Strength, speed, reflexes, or perhaps instinct. The boy swallowed hard, but his father pressed on. If you had all of those, would that alone make you a great swordsman? The answer was firm. No, his voice resonated like a hammer. What truly matters is the force that drives a man beyond his limits. The boy stumbled back, eyes wide. His energy, it's completely changed. Fiore's presence swelled, overwhelming, his hand gripping the hilt like a storm made flesh. Shall we call it the sword's calling? The king said, voice calm yet thunderous. The boy could barely whisper. Destiny. Perhaps, the king answered. Something like that. The boy lowered his gaze to his blade, heart pounding. In my past life, I was never destined to walk the path of the sword. But now? His grip tightened. This time he would not falter. Fiore stepped closer, boots striking stone with weight. Well, my son, should you hold the sword? The boy trembled, questions swirling inside. A voice in his head pressed further. Even in death, would you still hold that blade? But his lips faltered. I don't feel anything. Darkness consumed the hall. From the shadows, crimson eyes opened by the dozens, piercing him with dread. He gasped, frozen in terror. Then came the memory, jagged and sharp. Voices screaming, flames devouring the city, soldiers yelling for him to run. Prince Yuri. His eyes snapped open, reflecting fire. The city burned, towers crumbling under crimson flames. Soldiers marched relentlessly. Civilians cut down without mercy. Through the inferno, a black-armored knight advanced, his eyes cold and merciless. Yuri staggered, horror on his face. Why is Briol burning? Soldiers turned, pointing. It's the Third Prince. The last of Briol's bloodline is here. Steel clashed as they swarmed him. His eyes went wide, his chest tightening. The Imperial Army? Don't tell me. The dreadful realization struck. The nightmare wasn't over. As fire swallowed the kingdom once more, Yuri looked down at his own trembling hands. No, at this moment, this is when Briol was destroyed. A wall of fire devoured the once glorious city of Briol. Towers crumbled into ash, swallowed by a blaze so fierce it looked as if the heavens themselves had turned against the kingdom. Flames reflected in pools of blood as bodies fell in the streets, cut down, trampled, erased without mercy. Steel flashed, a soldier's boot pressed down on a fallen man. One swing. Cold. Efficient. A life ended against the glow of the inferno. Through the smoke, a lone knight walked forward, armor blackened by fire, eyes hollow, yet burning with something deeper than fear. Then he stopped. What? His voice cracked, unable to understand what he was seeing. Before his eyes, Briol, his home, burned. Why? Is Briol burning? He whispered. The flames roared in answer. Shouts cut through the chaos. It's the Third Prince! The last Prince of Briol is here! Kill him! He turned sharply, cloak whipping in the scorching wind. Imperial soldiers advanced, blades dripping with murderous intent. His heartbeat thundered. Imperial army, A tremor spread through his chest. Memory and reality blurred. Wait, don't tell me. His grip tightened on his armor as breath escaped him in a whisper. I've returned. As if triggered by those words, the past life he thought was just a dream came flooding back. Fire, screams, the fall of Briol. All of it. The flames crawled up the castle walls like living beasts. The Imperial army marched through the blaze with terrifying order, crushing fallen banners beneath their boots. The young man stood motionless amidst it all, breath ragged, eyes filled with disbelief. Was it all just a dream? He muttered. But the stench of burnt steel and blood proved otherwise. So this is how it ends. Briol destined to fall again. His sword lowered, the tip dragging along the scorched stone. It can't be stopped. Enemy blades glinted through the flames. He stood alone, scorched, wounded, cornered. But as the enemy approached, something inside him shifted. His heart pounded, echoing like war drums in his ears. But I already made a vow. A voice echoed from memory, stern and steady. Never fear the enemy. Do what you believe in. His eyes sharpened. Fear faded. Resolve took its place. With a sharp breath, he raised his sword, this time not as a desperate survivor, but as a Prince of Briol. Steel met steel. Sparks burst. Blood followed. Flames swallowed the world around him as mocking voices echoed from beyond the inferno. Prince of Briol, you're a dead man now. Just give up already. He didn't flinch. Briol, he murmured, his grip tightening around the blade until his knuckles bled. Then, lifting his sword, blue mana crackled along its edge. House never throw away its honor, even if it means death. Ah! His roar tore through the fire as he charged, blade crashing into enemy steel like thunder. Spears lunged toward him, armor shattered. Blood sprayed across the burning ground, but still he fought, eyes glowing with a crimson light that refused to die. Fulfill Briol's duty until the end, and then everything shattered. The fire vanished. The battlefield faded. Silence. He opened his eyes. The flames were gone. The great hall stood in their place, quiet, still, untouched. Yet his hand trembled around the sword, as if it still remembered the heat of that burning oath. A voice reached him. Yuri, can you hear my voice? He turned. His father stood before him. Father? The Black Army. A firm hand rested on his shoulder. Yuri, calm yourself. It was only an illusion. An illusion? He echoed. Yet the heaviness in his chest said otherwise. His father looked at him with eyes far more serious than before. I was wrong. The air grew heavy as the king lowered himself slightly, meeting his son's gaze directly. Yuri, you will take up the sword. For a moment Yuri said nothing, then slowly a smirk tugged at his lips. Yes, I've made my decision. His father studied him in silence, as if weighing the fate behind that choice. Anyone watching would think Yuri had just signed a death oath. Yuri laughed lightly, tapping his chest. Relax. I'm a genius, after all. And just like that, the intense air cracked for a moment until a sudden bam echoed. Under a clear sky, the training ground stood peaceful. Bernard turned as Yuri approached, hand still rubbing a fresh bruise on his head. Your Highness, Bernard greeted. Yuri's expression relaxed. Yet something in his eyes had undeniably changed. Bernard, he said quietly, you stayed in Briol to duel my father, right? Yes, Bernard replied calmly. Yuri's gaze strengthened. Then even if you never get that duel, if I asked you to stay, would you? Bernard paused. Then with a faint smile, he answered, No, Yuri scowled internally. Heartless as always, but Bernard's tone softened. However, if you show me something worthy. Yuri looked up, eyes narrowing. Like the swordsmanship of Yuri Briol. Bernard finished, voice carrying a quiet challenge. Then I might consider staying. Under the bright courtyard sky, Bernard stands with his arms loosely crossed, watching Yuri with mild curiosity. The founder's swordsmanship. You want to learn it? He asks, clearly intrigued. Yuri nods, trying to play it cool. I just got curious. He scratches his neck like he didn't just drop the most insane request. Bernard hums, stroking his mustache like a wise old mentor from every fantasy story ever. Yuri quickly adds, almost awkwardly, but honestly it might not help you. Bernard just nods, unbothered. Even incomplete, I'll take it. I've considered that already. Yuri sighs. I'm telling you, this won't benefit you. Then, shring, he draws his sword. Blue mana erupts, wrapping around his blade and his entire body like living flame. This swordsmanship is one with the mana method. They can't exist separately. Bernard blinks in surprise. Mana method fused into swordsmanship, that's new. Yuri closes his eyes briefly, mana swirling steadily around him. That's why it can't fully be taught. It'll always be incomplete if passed down by someone else. For the first time, Bernard's expression shifts. Not impressed, but something close to respect. He finally nods. That's fine, Yuri freezes. You're serious? Bernard places a hand to his chest, smiling confidently. Incomplete or not, I'll take it. I'll make that my condition for staying in Briol. Yuri thinks to himself. Wow. Confidence level. Legendary NPC who refuses to die in the tutorial. Still he smirks. Fine, but you're staying in Briol, got it? Understood. Bernard steps back, boots echoing against the stone courtyard. He raises his sword with firm elegance, then, show me. Mana flares once more around Yuri's blade as he lowers his stance. All right then, I'll show you. Yuri Briol Simunchum. Mana crackles like lightning around him. Then he tilts his head slightly. Oh, and I forgot to mention. He glances aside casually. I was planning to keep you in Briol anyway. Ah yes, classic Yuri. Deadly aura, chaotic energy. Bernard lifts a brow. What, aren't you going to attack? Yuri pauses. What? Bernard smiles and moves first. Foom. Mana roars around Bernard as his strike comes down like a hammer. Yuri's eyes widen. Wait, why would you? Boom! Sword meets stone, an explosion shaking the courtyard. And now you tell me, Yuri yells, clashing blades as sparks of pure mana erupt between them. Cut. The sun dips beyond Briol's walls, sky glowing orange. Later that night, Yuri lies on his bed, staring at the ceiling. His eyes reflect faint golden light. It's changing. Images flash through his mind, flames ruin the fall of Briol. But this time, he sees Bernard. Still in Briol, still fighting. Even without fighting the Empire yet, things are changing. He raises his hand slowly. Changing the future once felt like some vague fantasy. A faint smile breaks across his face. But little by little, it is changing. His eyes sharpen. But not enough. This time I'll stop the Empire, definitely. A voice cuts in, flat and unimpressed. Definitely, this time don't cause trouble. Yuri flinches. He turns. Ina, arms folded like a disappointed babysitter. He blinks. Do I have plans tomorrow? She sighs like she's aged 20 years watching him. You cause trouble daily. And yes, you have a meeting. The Elders' Council. Yuri just stares. Ah, damn it. Morning. The great council hall of Briol. Polished marble, chandeliers glowing. Bam. A noble slams his fist on the table. No way. Yuri sits calmly, absolutely unfazed. Yep, Ina called it. Opposition from round one. Duke Gennard of West stands, face red. It is unacceptable for His Highness to learn an unverified mana method. Murmurs ripple through the nobles. Yuri leans back, voice calm. To gather the entire council just to argue about my mana method. I'm honored, Duke Gennard. Translation. Congrats, you've officially earned the title, Clown of the Council. Tension rises like a drawn blade. Sir Sand, your opinion? Gennard asks smoothly. Sand sits in silence, then... I can't say for sure, Gennard's eyes gleam. You hear that? Even the Royal Guard captain disagrees. The council erupts. Voices clash. Hands slam the table. Everyone argues about his future while Yuri just watches, expression flat. Look at these guys. The Council of Wise Elders? More like a tavern debate with extra jewelry. The atmosphere grows heavy. Almost all hands raise against him. Mana flares faintly around Yuri's fingers beneath the table. If I hadn't already engraved Sim Hunchum into my core, I wouldn't be able to defend it now, just as Gennard smirks, ready to declare victory. A lazy chuckle echoes. A man in a crimson coat leans back casually, eyes sharp. May I say something? He doesn't wait for permission. In this grand hall, his gaze sweeps across the nobles like a blade. How many of you have actually fought an orc with your own hands? Silence, and just like that, the balance shifts. The council chamber falls silent, an uncomfortable kind of silence where no one wants to admit the truth. Calcio Irancha's words hang in the air like a blade. He looks around with a lazy smile, tapping the table. Oh, anyone here actually fought an orc before? Not a single elder raises a hand. Duke Gennard's jaw tightens. Who are you to speak like this? State your rank. Right. Calcio gives an exaggeratedly polite bow, clearly mocking the room. Calcio Irancha, Free Baron. Unfortunately dragged here by Count Sidor's order. Murmurs ripple through the council. A Free Baron, representing Count Sidor, the border lord known not for politics but for war. A man who didn't write reports. He wrote death counts. The mood shifts instantly. Calcio smirks. Count Sidor doesn't bother explaining himself in meetings like this. I assume you already know why. No one does. Obviously, he continues, voice casual like he's commenting on the weather. See, when you're actually on the battlefield instead of polishing chairs in council halls, mana methods don't matter that much. Briol style, Founded King style, Empire's Lion Fang. It's all the same if the swordsman holding it is weak. Then he turns toward Yuri. So, Your Highness, what do you say? The young prince speaks clearly, his voice steady. As a Prince of Briol, I will learn the mana method of the Founding King. I don't see how that is controversial. Calcio's grin widens in approval. There you have it. His instincts chose the founder's path, so I really don't get why people who hold neither authority nor actual responsibility are still talking. A twitch of rage flashes across multiple noble faces. Jenar slams a hand over the table. Such insolence. Calcio shrugs. Forgive me. When you spend every morning picking up corpses at the border, you develop personality. The nobles stiffen. Someone tries to salvage dignity. Well, the border has been rather quiet lately. Calcio's smile vanishes. Oh? So unless hundreds die, it's considered quiet? He leans forward. 4 men died the day I left. One of them was a friend I had breakfast with. Silence again. This time no one speaks. Yuri's eyes narrow. Orcs, Klein Duchy, the border. All the pieces start aligning in his mind. That's when he speaks. Have their movements changed? Calcio blinks, surprised. Yeah, more organized. A bit too organized. And Klein Duchy? Didn't they have troops stationed there? Calcio frowns. They pulled back suddenly. Yuri leans back slowly. And the villages near the retreat? Calcio's jaw tightens. Burned. Completely. The council starts murmuring, finally realizing this isn't just a debate about mana theory. Yuri's voice cuts through the noise. Did the Duke's third son screw something up? One of the younger nobles flinches violently. Yuri looks at him with the same calm expression one uses when stating the weather. Enough of this. He stands. I believe we've talked enough about my mana method. Let's shift focus to something actually urgent, Klein's retreat. The orc raids. Our borders. The council hall falls quiet, much quieter than before. Yuri turns toward the door. Let's stop spending time debating a teenage boy's training. Briol has more pressing enemies. And just like that he walks out, leaving the council humiliated, confused, and forced to follow his pace, not theirs. Later that night on the border, Calcio sits alone in a dim outpost room, speaking through a communication orb. So that's what the third prince said? A rough voice from the orb asks. Calcio leans back, thinking. Rumors said he changed. They were wrong. Wrong how? Calcio looks out the window. Soldiers patrol through cold air, their torches flickering like dying fireflies. He's not just changed. He mutters. He's already chosen a battlefield. Then he freezes, down in the torch-lit street. A cloaked figure walks among commoners, no guards, no insignia. Just a prince walking like a rogue. Calcio narrows his eyes. No escort. No noble carriage. Just walking straight into the city? For the first time, Calcio looks intrigued. Genuinely intrigued. Interesting. Under the moonlight that same night, Yuri walks through the slums with a hood over his head, a grin tugging at his lips. I snuck out just like you suggested, he says casually. His silver-haired companion stares in disbelief. Do you enjoy sneaking out of the palace this much? Yuri just shrugs. Back then I ran away from home for fun. This feels nostalgic. Your Highness, that isn't something to be proud of. Yuri ignores him. Instead he stops, flips a coin between his fingers and smirks. We're heading to the biggest illegal casino in the capital. His companion freezes. I thought you said you weren't going to do anything shady. Yuri pats him on the back. Lead the way. Don't pretend you don't know where it is. The silver-haired mage sighs in defeat. Every time I black out drink, I wake up there somehow anyway. Yuri stops at the crossroads, looks ahead, and his eyes sharpen. I'll say this in advance, he declares. Everything I'm about to do is for Briol. His companion stares. Just how much are you planning to win? Yuri grins, stepping forward like he's marching into battle. Tonight, we flip that place upside down. In his previous life, there were a few names that echoed through the underbelly of Briol like curses whispered in the dark. First, the underworld king, a ruthless loan shark who ruled the black market from the shadows. Then, the merchant queen, a woman who built the greatest trading network in the entire continent. And lastly, the one that even criminals feared to speak of, an assassin, a silent monster who murdered the loan shark, took control, and painted Briol's streets red with fear. Back in the present, the doors to a smoky gambling den open with a creak. Dice stop rolling. Men holding cards freeze mid-game. Conversations die out as the third Prince of Briol walks in like he owns the floor, a calm smile on his lips. And the royal mage Hernando trailing behind him looking like he wants to evaporate on the spot. And standing at the center of it all, Goryo, the current loan shark. the man who rules this den of debt and blood. He forces a courteous smile, bowing with a tone that almost sounds respectful. Your Highness, welcome. Naturally, someone like me should greet someone like you. Yuri meets his politeness with a cold grin. Good. Saves me the time of announcing myself. He sits down on a red velvet couch, like it's his personal throne. Hernando sits beside him, whispering nervously if they're actually here to gamble. The prince doesn't even spare him a glance. Quiet. Goryeo leans forward, amused. If you're not here for games, then perhaps money? Yuri nods without hesitation. I'm here to borrow. A large amount. The room goes still. Goryeo chuckles, intrigued. A prince asking a criminal for money instead of a bank. Either madness or strategy. What for? He asks. Yuri doesn't blink. Mugranza. A rare spice harvested only in the Klein Mountains. Soon war will break supply lines. The only alchemist capable of refining it will die in the first wave. And when that happens, he leans back, calm as a king delivering a prophecy. I will own the price of Mugranza itself. Hernando goes pale. Even Goryeo's polite smile cracks for a moment. This isn't some clueless prince throwing money around. This is a predator preparing to control a trade war. Goryeo studies him in silence. Then slowly, he laughs. Very interesting, Your Highness. Later, Yuri and Hernando leave the gambling den. The city is quieter here. Lamps flickering against stone walls, distant market noise echoing like whispers. Hernando sighs in relief, thinking it's finally over. Yuri keeps walking. One more stop. Hernando nearly trips. They enter a rundown district where buildings lean like they're tired of standing. In front of a broken sign, Yuri stops. Here. He knocks on the door, ignoring Hernando's frantic whisper that this is a job for a guild, not a prince. The door cracks open. A cautious voice. Who are you? Iraine Wood, Third Prince Yuri Briol. I have a contract for you. The door doesn't open any wider, but tension fills the air. Hernando looks between them, horrified. Trusting a failing merchant shop with royal trade? Madness. But Yuri's inner voice is steady. In my past life, she became the greatest merchant in the continent. People called her a queen. Not out of status, but because every deal she made felt like an oath. This time, she will rise under my banner, not fate's. They leave again. Hernando is exhausted, ready to collapse. Yuri walks ahead, cloak swaying behind him like a silent declaration. Goryeo. Secured. Iraine. Chosen. Just one left, Yuri murmurs, eyes sharp as he steps deeper into the slums. The air changes, smoke, hunger, children fighting over stale bread. This place reeks of forgotten lives, the kind of place where monsters are born, not nobles. Yuri scans the alley. There. A group of ragged kids huddle beside a broken water barrel. They flinch at the sight of cloaks and steel, wary and feral. Yuri steps forward calmly. I am Yuri, Third Prince of Briol. The children don't move, but one of them slowly lifts his head. Long blue hair falls over cold eyes that don't belong to a child but a hunter. For a split second, Yuri sees a flash, blood on the cobblestones. Goryeo gasping his last breath, a blade glinting in the moonlight. In that same face, older, soaked in crimson, the assassin who once slaughtered the entire underworld. The memory fades. Back in the present, Yuri speaks clearly, like he's naming fate itself. Asana. Asana stands frozen in the alleyway, dirt clinging to her skin as the children hide close behind her. Their eyes flicker with fear. In the shadowed moonlight, she recognizes the cloak and her lips part slightly. Prince, she doesn't bow. She doesn't soften. Her jaw stays locked, suspicion still burning in her eyes. Why is he here? What does someone like him want in a place like this? Yuri meets her stare with a calm, steady gaze. No need to be wary. I simply saw children in need during an inspection. A pouch is handed to Yuri with trembling hands. He accepts it focused, as if everything is proceeding exactly as he intended. From behind Asana, a small child peeks out, clutching her clothes tightly. Is it this child? For a moment, time fractures. A memory flashes. Asana in another life, kneeling in front of Goryeo, begging for money to save this very child. Goryeo watches her with cold amusement, just as he had watched countless others fall into debt and ruin. This time, I will change where it all begins. Back in the alley, Yuri extends the pouch toward her. Use this money to get treated at the temple. Asana hesitates. Her fingers tremble around the pouch. What do you want in return? She forces herself to speak. What I want. There's one thing. Yuri steps forward with steady confidence. I am Yuri Briol, Third Prince of Briol. Remember this name. The children blink, slowly realizing. Then they run off, clutching the money as if holding on to hope itself. Silt follows behind, still confused. Why would you give that much money to beggars? Yuri doesn't even look back. It's an investment for the future. Asana stays behind, clutching the pouch to her chest, stunned and breathless. I've pulled them into my fate, and now there's only one person left. Later, Yuri and Hernando walk through a silent alley. Yuri stops. Hernando, at the Founder's relic site? What did you see? Hernando pauses, then smiles like it's no big deal. Gambling. I risked my life at the Imperial Basragas casino. Yuri stares. Of course, that's just like him. Hernando adjusts his cloak. Anyway, about today. But Yuri passes him with a cold voice. Be careful how you act. Morning light floods the Imperial Palace. Hernando stands before the throne. Hernando. Yes, Your Majesty. The king studies him, expression unreadable. I heard you left the capital with Yuri. Yes, Hernando replies calmly. He lured me out. A flash, lanterns blazing, the largest casino in the capital looming in the night. We went to the biggest casino in the capital. And you gambled? Yes, he lost all the money I lent him. The king narrows his eyes, listening. And afterward? Another memory. Yuri giving all the borrowed money to a rundown shop and even a starving orphan. He gave it all away. And observed the people closely. He seemed genuinely interested in how they live. The king remains silent. Then lets it pass. He changes the subject. The royal ball is soon. You never cared before. So what about now? For the first time, Hernando smiles. People change. I feel like dancing. For once. On the training grounds, Bernard lies breathless after intense sparring. Yuri smirks. He teases that Bernard must be popular with the palace maids. Bernard brushes it off. Yuri suggests he attend the ball. Bernard refuses immediately. His tone shifts. That sword technique of yours. It has no fixed form, Yuri nods. It just flows. Bernard admits honestly, to learn it. I need to see it in a real fight. The instructor steps forward, acknowledging Yuri's rapid growth, but warning him. You're progressing too fast. Your body isn't fully ready. Yuri smiles confidently. I'll handle it. The instructor exhales. Then, let's go another round. Yuri drops the wooden blade. With real swords, steel is drawn. Sparks are ready to fly. During the clash, Yuri calls out, if I land one hit, you go to the ball. Bernard doesn't even hesitate. No, you never keep your promises anyway. Mana crackles along Yuri's blade, blue light bursting out. We'll see about that. He launches forward, fast, precise. But not a single hit connects. Days later, the palace gates open to the glowing streets preparing for the royal ball. Carriages roll in, nobles stepping into the light. Inside one carriage, the second Prince Georgi Varna Grandsion lounges with quiet confidence. Across from him, a young girl watches through the window, eyes bright with excitement. He chuckles. Ekaterina, you can't take your eyes off the window. She smiles softly. It's been so long. I'm really looking forward to it. The empire moves, and fate tightens its threads. Under the pale glow of the moon, the royal palace shimmered like silver against the night. Inside, a young man stood before his mirror, his uniform embroidered with gold that caught the candlelight. How do I look, Your Highness? He asked, striking a confident pose. Behind him, the prince frowned. Too much. Take it off. Ina, the maid fixing his collar, hesitated. It looks pretty to me, she said softly. You used to like things like this. He didn't answer, just watched her in silence until she stepped back. There, all done. As she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. Ina. She turned, startled. Shall we dance? Her cheeks flushed. Pardon? I need practice, he said evenly, eyes calm. But I have no partner, she stammered, clutching her apron. Do we really have to? He chuckled. Don't tell me you'll step on my feet. I won't, she blurted, flustered as his hand found hers. Then follow my lead, he murmured. Their steps moved slowly, rhythmically beneath the chandelier's glow. Ina's heart raced, his hand firm but gentle. Are you underestimating me, Your Highness? She teased. I'm actually quite good. Oh? With who? He asked. I'm popular, she replied smugly, but this is my first time with someone this short. He blinked. She grinned. A beat later, Ina, you just stepped on my foot, she gasped playfully. Oops, another accident. Laughter filled the room, blending with faint music drifting through the palace. Elsewhere, in the grand ballroom, nobles twirled under chandeliers as the king watched from above, wine swirling in his hand, gaze cold and unreadable. The royal ball glittered with light and chatter. The young prince mingled politely among nobles, though his attention broke when a tall figure entered, the infamous Count Sidor. The man's presence alone seemed to chill the air. So even Sidor came tonight, the prince thought. This isn't just a social visit. Soon his older brother approached, composed and elegant. Still wearing those glasses, brother? He teased. It's nothing for you to worry about, the prince replied flatly. A ceremonial horn silenced the crowd. Doors opened wide and a man in a crimson cape strode in, his golden hair gleaming beneath the lights. The king rose, voice steady. Welcome, honored guest, the noble bowed. I'm grateful for your hospitality, your majesty. Then he turned. I've come with my younger sister. A hush fell as she appeared, descending the marble steps like light itself. Her golden hair shimmered, her sky-blue gown trailing gracefully. I greet his majesty, she said, voice soft yet clear. The young prince froze. Yekaterina. Memories hit, her smile, their hands entwined, and the heartbreak that followed. Never again, he vowed. But when her eyes met his resolve faltered. She was as radiant as ever. He looked away, trying to mask the turmoil while his brother greeted her warmly. The night carried on with laughter and music, but for him, time seemed to stop between what was and what could never be again. Later, by the banquet table, he stood quietly nibbling a cookie, watching his brother lead a noblewoman in a flawless dance, as expected of Cedric Young. A true monarch, he thought bitterly. His eyes drifted again to Yekaterina, now smiling as another man offered his hand. The sight cut deeper than he expected. He turned away sharply. Damn it, he muttered. Then a cheerful voice snapped him back. Your Highness, would you like a cookie? Ina appeared, tray in hand, and a bright smile on her face. Her warmth eased the tension in his chest. Thanks, Ina, you've worked hard. Think nothing of it, she chirped. Compared to cleaning up after someone every day, this is easy. He smirked faintly. Enough talk. Just give me more cookies. Her laughter lingered as she left, leaving him momentarily at peace. But peace didn't last. The sound of approaching boots drew his gaze upward. A tall man in a red cloak stood before him, presence heavy, eyes sharp. You are... The prince began cautiously. The stranger smiled faintly, his uniform glinting under the light. The Empire's second prince, Georg Ivarna Granzayan. Images flashed. Battlefields, blazing standards, the Empire's armies crushing Briol. The man who led our downfall. Forcing composure, Yuri bowed. Yuri Briol, Third Prince of Briol. Georg's smirk deepened. So you are the one. The air thickened. Power rippled, an invisible pressure coiling around Yuri's body. His breath caught. Sweat ran down his temple. 13 this year, aren't you? Georg said, eyes glowing cold green. Truly Fiore's son. Then as suddenly as it came, the pressure vanished. Georg stepped back, tone almost admiring. Such remarkable talent. Yuri clenched his fists. That wasn't praise. It was a warning. From the side, Cedric muttered darkly. What an unpleasant bastard. Then, a sharp crash. Everyone turned. Ina knelt on the floor, hands trembling. Crimson wine spreading across the polished marble, creeping toward Georg's cloak. The red stain touched the imperial emblem. Her face drained of color. The imperial emblem, she whispered. I've defiled it. The ballroom went deathly silent. Georg looked down, voice low and smooth. Oh no. His lips curved in a chilling smile. This child, he murmured, hand drifting to his sword, seems to have made a mistake. Steel rasped from its sheath, gleaming beneath the chandeliers. According to imperial law, he said coldly, the punishment is execution. The chandelier sways, gold light scattering. Georg's sword is inches from a kneeling maid, and the ballroom is so quiet you can hear panic thinking. Have you come to disrupt my ball? Heavy footsteps. The king of Briol descends like a storm in a uniform. If you want blood, he says, stopping before Georg, spill it on your own land. Silence. Georg's smirk twitches, then he sheathes the blade. I ask for your majesty's understanding, he purrs. Translation, I'd like to keep my head today. The Empire and Briol have respected each other's authority, the king says. Georg's tone sharpens. And yet you don't. Then he drops the name. Gattensha. A yes. Diplomacy's favorite pastime, digging up old scandals at parties. When your majesty executed not a Briol knight but an imperial one, Georg says, voice carrying to every corner. The king's jaw tightens. The ballroom suddenly feels less waltz, more battlefield. Georg lifts the blade again. This is the same. For peace and honor. Nothing says peace like brandishing a sword at service staff. The tip hovers at the maid's throat. There won't be much blood, he adds. Wow. Customer service voice execution content. Yuri's hands curl into fists. He knows stepping in pokes the Empire's pride like with a spear. Briol does not abandon honor, your majesty. His voice cracks the tension. He steps between Georg and the maid. That child is under my protection. Georg studies him, amused and annoyed, like someone just told him no for the first time in his life. Underneath a flicker, caution. This boy isn't posturing. He means it. The king's voice follows, iron steady. Then her fault is the same as my own. Yuri adds, calm but firm. I carry royal blood. Please take that into consideration. Gasps roll through the nobles. Finally something worth gossiping about besides pastries. Yuri lifts his chin. Withdraw the execution and grant a trial by combat. Georg laughs low. Yuri, the third prince. Yes, your majesty. May I call you Yuri? The fake courtesy could cut glass. Of course. Very well. I accept. The king exhales, resigned, not weak. So be it. Georg spins his sword and sheathes it with theatrical flourish. Normally I'd duel you myself, he says, basking. But for imperial dignity, I'll send my youngest squire. Classic. Outsource the danger, keep the spotlight. Yuri bows. I'm grateful for your mercy. See you at the duel, Georg says, cape doing its smug little wave. The hall exhales. Yuri turns to the maid. Ina. She's shaking. Your Highness. Because of me. Go rest, he says, gently helping her up. Don't worry about me. She's led away, tears glinting in the chandelier's light, while every eye burns holes in Yuri's back, the boy who challenged an empire before dessert. Through the thinning crowd, Yuri spots long golden hair. Catherine. She watches, calm but worried. He looks away. Schedule heartbreak for later. From a balcony, a silver-haired noble sips wine, studying Yuri like he's tomorrow's headline. Night replaces the ballroom glow. Moonlit corridors, tall windows, quiet thoughts until, what were you thinking? Yuri stops. Brother, do you realize what you've done? The older prince asks, stepping close. I couldn't watch Ina die, Yuri says. No wobble, just truth. A gloved hand lands on Yuri's head, rare warmth from a man who files emotions under classified. You had no choice, huh? There's the smallest smile, then the blade under the velvet. Should I help you? How? Your opponent, he says lightly. If their skills are similar, an accident could happen. Royal help, supportive with optional fatality. I'll handle it myself, Yuri replies, crisp. His brother studies him, then, miracle, smiles for real. Right, I trust you, Yuri Briol. Of course. Yuri walks on, thoughts settling like armor. If the Empire hadn't crushed us, brother would be king. This time I'll fight to see that future. Morning. Sun slams into the cathedral courtyard. White stone, bright banners, blades ready. At center, Yuri, calm. Across from him, a towering knight in full imperial plate. The stands fill with high-ranking nobles whispering like pigeons with titles. The third prince. Calling a duel? One scoffs. Lord Sened strokes his beard. The squire's stance is excellent. Quite imperial. Will his highness be all right? Another asks. Sened's mouth twitches. Look, all eyes drop to the arena. Yuri stretches. Rolls his shoulders. Exhales like this is a morning warm-up, not a national incident. Draws his sword in one smooth, unbothered line. There's no need to worry, Sened says quietly, pleased. Because in Yuri's eyes there's that red spark, the oath that doesn't bluff. In the hierarchy of magic, there existed one title so rare that most mages would sooner explode their labs than reach it: Grand Wizard. Among the Magic Tower's elites, this rank was reserved for those who'd achieved Dokman Mado, the transcendence of mind and spirit. Basically enlightenment, but with fireworks. Few could touch the forbidden art known as Heaven's Mandate observation formula, not a spell, but a divine power, a cheat code into destiny itself. And only one man had ever used it, Hernan. He was supposed to be the smartest man alive, until the night he got absolutely wrecked at a gambling table. Across from him, a calm young man flicked poker chips like he was born doing it. "How can you not win a single round?" "You're terrible at this." Hernan twitched. For a man who could supposedly see fate, this was awkward. His mind screamed, "I can read anyone. But this boy? Nothing, no energy, no destiny. Just a blank screen." And in that emptiness, Hernan saw something terrifyingly familiar. The same shadow he once glimpsed through divine vision. A boy with black hair, royal eyes. The Third Prince of Briol. His vision burned again, a battlefield on fire. The young prince fought like a dying god, bloodied but unyielding. The vision ended in despair, yet Hernan couldn't shake it. He activated Heaven's Mandate again, runes glowing gold, fate unraveling before his eyes, until he saw the truth. Prince Yuri has no fate. Back at the dueling grounds, sunlight gleamed off marble. Yuri gripped his sword. "I'm ready." "How long are you going to keep swinging at air?" His armored opponent smirked, confident. From the royal box, a blonde prince leaned forward. "Sure you don't need to warm up?" "I'm fine," Yuri replied. "You'll be the one needing rest soon." The officiator raised his voice. "Begin the trial by combat." They clashed instantly. Steel shrieked against steel. Sparks burst like fireworks as the third prince lunged with stunning speed. The knight barely kept up. Every motion was fluid, precise. A dance between lightning and steel. The audience gasped. Nobles whispered disbelief. On the balcony, the silver-haired wizard Hernan watched silently, golden eyes narrowing. Something about the boy's movement felt off, almost divine, and possibly illegal. The clang of steel filled the air as tension rippled through the stands. The king's tone was grave. "Hernan," he said, eyes fixed on the duel. "How will this end?" Hernan's gaze flickered. "Honestly?" he murmured. "No one can predict this one." The king frowned. "That's not what I wanted to hear." But Hernan only smiled, the smile of a man who enjoys being unhelpful. Below, Yuri countered a brutal strike with flawless timing, the kind that makes seasoned warriors reconsider their careers. The king pressed further. "You came to Briol following Heaven's will, didn't you?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "Then, is it time for you to leave?" The entire hall went silent. Hernan just laughed softly. "No, not yet. I rather like it here, especially when people aren't trying to stab each other every 5 minutes." The king exhaled in relief. "Good." Hernan bowed politely. "I'm grateful Your Majesty thinks so highly of this humble magician." The king's eyes narrowed. "Excessive humility invites misfortune." Translation: "Don't get cocky, old man." Hernan chuckled. "Then allow me to ask, who do you think is stronger?" Down below, the knight's aura erupted, crimson energy exploding like a firestorm. "The opponent," the king said grimly. Hernan nodded, expression darkening. So he sees it too. He'd once believed Briol's glory had vanished, but as he watched Yuri push forward through the knight's onslaught, something stirred in him. An uncomfortable realization that maybe, just maybe, destiny had changed its mind. The knight lunged, a blur of armor and rage. Each swing cracked the marble beneath their feet. Yuri stood still, calm, unreadable, then whispered, "Not yet." Blue light burst from his blade, flooding the arena. "Shall we end this?" He vanished in a flash, reappearing faster than the eye could follow. Their swords collided, red and blue, thunder and fire, until a blinding explosion swallowed them both. When the light cleared, everyone froze. 2 silhouettes remained, blades locked, the air trembling. Nobles leaned forward. One knight whispered, "Heavens." Hernan smiled knowingly. To twist the sword in that moment? Impressive. Dust settled. The imperial knight stumbled back, weapon slipping from his hand. Yuri stood tall, calm as dawn. "How was it?" he asked, like he'd just finished a light workout. The defeated knight blinked, voice shaking. I won!" Cue the confetti. The crowd exploded in cheers, and because apparently delusion counts as sportsmanship. Ernan rose slowly, clapping once, golden eyes gleaming. Following heaven's will led me here, yet I've met one who defies it. Below, Yuri wiped his face, smiling brightly, the kind of smile that could make even fate feel awkward. Ernan whispered to himself, "From the tip of that boy's sword, heaven's decree has changed, and for the first time the all-seeing wizard felt something he hadn't in decades, uncertainty. Maybe this world still has surprises left." 5 years later, the grand palace of Briol gleamed beneath a perfect blue sky, quiet, majestic, and about to host pure chaos. Somewhere inside, a young maid sprinted down the corridor, muttering frantically. Everything was going so smoothly. How did I even mix up my patrol zone? She stopped, clutching her chest. If I get caught like this, hey, you there. Her soul left her body. Standing before her was a tall man in a tailored navy suit, black hair, sharp gaze, royalty stamped all over him. "Are you new?" he asked coldly. "What are you doing here?" She panicked. Okay, think. If he's stern, he's the king. If he smiles, he's the crown prince. But if he looks like he's planning something... Oh no, she froze. The smirk, the walk, the swagger. Definitely the third one, huh? "Are you mocking me?" he said, eyebrow twitching. "And no, I was just, busy," she squeaked, waving her hands like that would fix anything. He sighed. "What, you people have a guidebook? Avoid this guy at all costs?" She stammered. That's not it." He leaned closer, voice low. "You little punks, I'll teach you, bro." The voice stopped him cold. Another man approached, calm, confident, sword at his side, posture screaming main character energy. The maid blinked. If he carries a sword and actually looks sane, that's him. The third prince smiled warmly. Picking on her again? "Well, no!" the older one barked defensively. Moments later, the third prince, Yuri, was outside, munching on a cookie like nothing happened. The sun hit his white shirt, his expression calm, thoughtful, the kind of man who can save a kingdom and enjoy snacks at the same time. "Picking on maids again?" Yuri teased. His brother turned crimson. "No!" The maid, still flustered, held out a small pastry. "Thank you. Even this is more than enough." Later, Yuri walked the halls alone, chewing quietly. "That maid really knows how to bake," he muttered with a faint grin. Then he raised his hand. Mana hummed around his fingers, glowing faintly. Sosugyong, the bare hand realm. Even while wielding a sword, he could ease the strain on his body. "At least I've reached that level," he murmured. A flicker of his past life flashed. Loran's sword, the betrayal, the fall. 5 years since he returned, and peace already felt like a luxury. He looked up at the sun, whispering, "Looks like peaceful days are coming to an end." He turned toward the distant spire. They're probably getting noisy by now. Right on cue, pounding, shouting, and noble-level drama echoed down the corridor. "Are you ignoring me?" "That's not it," someone screamed behind a heavy door. Yuri stood calmly, patience fading. "You're the one not listening." The guard beside him whispered, "Perhaps knock again, Your Highness?" He smiled tightly. "Sure." One very magical knock later, the door exploded off its hinges, scattering nobles like pigeons. "Oh, sorry," Yuri said, stepping through the wreckage. "I knocked. Maybe a bit hard." A noble groaned. "That's not knocking at all." Ignoring them, Yuri looked at the head of the table. "Father, I'll attend the meeting." The king nodded, utterly unbothered. "Very well." And just like that, the third prince joined the political battlefield, and uninvited but unstoppable. Inside, chaos bloomed faster than wine at a royal banquet. "We can't send troops," one noble barked. "Are you saying we'll defy the Empire?" Another shouted. Yuri sat silently, eyes cold. So it begins. He remembered it all. The Alliance Army. The Empire's grand scheme to eliminate orcs. In reality, it had been a trap. The orcs retaliated, annihilating every nation's borders, when except the Empire's. He clenched the report in his hand. "Not this time. I won't send a single soldier." "Oh yeah? Then what about—" "Enough." The single word silenced the hall. Yuri rose. "I'll go," he said firmly. "I'll join the Alliance Army myself." The nobles froze. He continued, "Show some sincerity. In the name of Briol, don't bring shame to yourselves." The king watched quietly, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. So that's your move, huh? Later, steel clashed in the training courtyard. Yuri trained hard, blade flashing in the morning light. Yuri, his brother yelled, running toward him, panting. Are you really going to the Alliance Army? Yeah, but why you? Royalty doesn't need to go. Yuri smiled faintly. It's our duty. His brother froze and then struck a heroic pose. All right, Yuri. I understand your resolve. And now you do? Yuri muttered. I'll protect the palace while you're gone, his brother declared proudly, then bolted off before Yuri could even roll his eyes. Watching him vanish, Yuri sighed. Such touching brotherhood. His sparring partner chuckled. Let's just hope he doesn't cause an incident. Yuri smirked. You're not worried about me? Only if you do something reckless, the man said. Thanks for the vote of confidence, but the tone soon shifted. Be careful, Yuri. Orcs are tougher than people think. Yuri's gaze darkened, especially the ones with banners on their backs. Among the orcs, those marked with crimson banners were monsters among monsters, brutal, cunning, unstoppable. Yuri's mentor frowned. They're the ones you should avoid. They don't die easily. Yuri smiled. Don't worry. I've got a plan. The older man raised an eyebrow. You have a plan? Before Yuri could reply, a maid ran in, breathless. Your Highness. A guest has arrived. They brought what you ordered. Yuri looked up at the sky, eyes gleaming with quiet determination. A plan? He repeated with a smirk. Of course. A very special one. A maid sprinted down the corridor, breathless. Your Highness. A guest has arrived. He brought what you ordered. Outside, Yuri traded a look with his mentor. A plan? The older man asked. Yuri smirked. Of course. Something special. Sunset poured amber light into a quiet, lavish room. Porcelain clinked. A man sipped tea, patient as a cat. Yuri entered, calm, measured. I greet the prince, the guest said, bowing with polished grace. Vice President, Elaine Trading Company. And Elaine? Yuri asked. She's away on business, he replied. A flash of Elaine riding through a forest, cloak, confidence, the works. She insists she's made for field work. Yuri leaned back. Honestly, is that all you came for? The vice president chuckled, setting a carved box on the table. Of course not. I brought the item you requested. Yuri opened it, eyes glinting. Well done, Guillermo. At last. Inside lay 4 elegant daggers, blades engraved like starlight. The 4-wheel blade. Guillermo blinked. Is that really valuable, Lux? Ornamental. It's extremely valuable, Yuri said, lifting one. A relic imbued with ancient magic. A faint blue aura wrapped the dagger. It floated, spinning lazily above his palm. Eek, it moved on its own. Guillermo squeaked. It's fine, Yuri said. It won't kill you. Comforting tone. Alarming content. Are you moving it with mana? Yuri's amusement flickered. Did you think I just played around all day? The blade pulsed oddly. Yuri paused, then let it settle, closing the box. Send my regards to Elaine. Next time, bring a progress report on the Imperial branch. Guillermo bowed deeply. Understood. Silence returned with the sunset lines across the floor. Yuri leaned back. You can come out now. Shadows rippled. A woman in black stepped forward, silent, lethal. Asana, Yuri said with a faint smirk. I delivered the warning to Goryo as ordered, she replied, purple hair catching the firelight. A memory flashed. Goryo jolting awake, a letter pinned by his pillow. Yuri chuckled. He's always trying to get Elaine's money. She studied him. Are you truly joining the Allied forces? The palace staff are talking. I am. Be careful, she murmured. You talk like it doesn't concern you. Yuri opened one eye. What do you mean? You're coming too. A small smile. You think you can keep up? The fire crackled. Asana's voice lingered. Anywhere's better than where I came from. Then stay in touch, Yuri said, steady. Her form dissolved into shadow. A few days later, deployment day. A crimson Briol flag snapped against the sky. The courtyard buzzed with armor and nerves. Yuri, his brother called, immaculate in a dark suit, worry tucked behind his glasses. Come back safe. Yuri, polished armor, sunrise on steel, smiled. Don't worry. I'm invincible. I'll make Briol shine again. His brother tried for casual. Take breaks from studying, okay? Look after your eyes. Ha, got it. A beat, half pride, half fear. Then a sudden hug, tight and real. Take care, little brother. I'll be back, Yuri said softly. A horn split the air. Banners thundered above the walls. The march toward destiny began. Under a blazing sun, the ceremony roared to life. The king stood on the podium, presence like a hammer. Yuri climbed the crimson steps, boots precise. Nervous? The king asked, stern, faintly fatherly. Not at all. Then turn around. Rows upon rows of soldiers stared back, an ocean of lives under Briol's banner. All these soldiers. Their lives rest on your shoulders, Yuri. Not everyone will return. Yuri's jaw set. But no meaningless deaths. Not again. Are you ready to bear that burden? Yes, father. Of course. Then take this head on. Crimson energy flared from the king's palm. Ancient runes seared across Yuri's skin. His eyes widened. Resolve hardened. The air crushed down. Killing intent. A monstrous red aura rose, twisting like a living shadow. Yuri's body seized. My body, it's not moving. From the darkness, the silhouette approached. Slow, deliberate. What's walking toward me now is death. A deep, warped voice in his mind. If you try to run, you'll die, Yuri's eyes sharpened. His voice still trembled, but defiance rang clear. Then there's no way to reject it? No, blue flames erupted around him. Mana surged. His sword ignited azure. He raised the blade and met the descending force, steel to steel, light to blood. The courtyard shook under the impact. The king smirked, satisfied. You endured it well. Yuri, breathing hard but steady, met his gaze. Will unbroken. His hand trembled as he looked at it. Just now, that was... The king stepped forward, offering his own sword, authority forged in steel. No need for words, he said. Come back alive. Yuri straightened. Yes, sir. He turned to his men, raised the blade high, light flashing like a vow. I am the Third Prince of Briol, Yuri Briol. Believe in me. Energy surged through the ranks. All troops, advance! Banners snapped. Boots thundered. The army moved like a single will. Meanwhile, deep beneath the palace, a different will awakened. In the dungeon's dark, a monstrous hand wrapped around iron bars. Eyes flared crimson. The low growl that followed made the stones themselves listen. Something dangerous had opened its eyes.
The sun bleeds into the horizon like the world's most dramatic warning sign, and honestly, in this world, that's usually accurate. Deep in the forest, a squad of knights takes a break, pretending the woods aren't silently judging them. Their commander, calm and collected, checks the map like a man who has seen some things. They're heading toward the border town near Balshed, the assembly point for their big, glorious mission. Everything seems normal, until a knight steps in and bows, addressing the commander as Your Highness. Yep, plot twist, the quiet, brooding man in black armor is actually a prince. But before the squad can enjoy the upgrade in royalty, the prince is hit with a flashback, a blood-soaked night. Eyes glowing with eye came straight from your nightmare's energy, and a voice taunts him. This all happened because of you, Roland Flandre. Reality snaps back. Bows so dramatically the trees probably felt awkward, and introduces himself like a fan at a celebrity meet and greet. The prince gives him a polite, yeah, but Roland isn't done. With sparkling sincerity, actual sparkles. Spiritually, if not visually, he announces, Your Highness, I admire you. The prince mentally blue screens. 1 second, he's battling trauma. The next, he's dealing with a knight who's been running a 5-year fan club in his brain. Apparently, when Roland was young, he heard a story about the prince standing up for a servant and decided, boom, hero, idol, life goal. Before the prince can process the enthusiasm, another knight saves him, Your Highness. It's time to depart. Good. Before Roland proposes marriage at the Satyr estate, the prince expects a cold, unfriendly welcome. Raymond even warns him, don't expect smiles. So naturally, they're greeted by a massive banner shouting welcome, and a formation of knights lined up like a royal parade. Raymond, okay, maybe he smiles once every 10 years. Margrave Haim, Theodore, steps forward battle-worn. Scarred and radiating, I've fought more wars than you've eaten breakfasts. He asks the prince the big question, have you ever fought an orc? The prince answers confidently, of course I haven't. He catches himself mid-lie, but the damage is done. The awkward silence is legendary. Still, Haim welcomes him, and soon, the prince is led into a dungeon lit only by torches. Haim claims he wants to give him a present, which, look, a war veteran offering gifts in a dungeon. That's how horror movies start. Inside, behind thick bars, lies the present, a living orc, captured and chained, breathing like a furnace in the dark. Haim explains that studying orcs is vital for survival. The prince nods, but internally. So this is the gift. Not even socks. Then Haim drops the real bomb. He plans to use this orc to teach the men what war is actually like. The prince immediately senses hesitation behind him and turns sharply. Name, Simon. Asim. Peshu. What's on your mind? Simon swallows. This feels too much, even for prisoners. The prince smiles, not kindly. More like he's thinking, ah, you sweet summer child. Open the cage. The doors scream open. The dungeon floor trembles. A massive foot slams forward. Chains rattle. The orc rises, a towering monster with murder in its eyes. The prince gives Simon the sentence. It's a real battle. Fight the orc. Simon nearly faints. The orc charges. The ground cracks. Simon does his best impression of bravery and gets smacked across the room like laundry in a hurricane. His helmet dents. His pride shatters. And he screams, U-U-R-G-H. The knights panic. But Haim steps forward, calm as death. Relax. We severed most of its tendons. Oh great. So it's only 98% lethal now. The orc limps, but still roars like a demon. Simon staggers to his feet, terrified, suddenly regretting everything he's ever said in his life. And through the flickering torchlight, the prince finally steps forward, calm, sharp. Eyes fixed on the beast. This is his battlefield now, and as the orc snarls and the knights brace themselves, the prince prepares to show everyone why a man reborn from death isn't afraid of monsters anymore. The orc tightens its grip around the young knight, lifting him like a squeaky toy. Its roar shakes the dungeon walls. Agakta. Agakataka. Translation: bad day for this knight. The squad panics. The prince calls forward their translator. Corey, a hooded man who looks like he hasn't seen daylight since the last dynasty. Translate. Corey listens, turns pale, and stammers. It says if you don't drop your weapons, it'll break his bones one by one. As if to prove the point, the orc squeezes. Simon screams. Armor cracks. The prince doesn't blink. Hernando. Your turn. The blonde mage steps forward, hands swirling with green mana. Chains of wind snap around the orc, pinning it down as it screeches. The prince moves instantly. One clean leap and slams the monster into the stone floor. The orc stops. Then its eyes ignite in a murderous red glow, and it rises, roaring like a living nightmare. The prince glances at Haim. This is no ordinary orc, is it? Haim's voice is grim. No, it killed many people. When we caught it, it was devouring a knight. One soldier explodes in anger. Prisoner or not, I'll kill it. The prince raises a hand. I'm not stopping you. But look behind him. Dozens of red eyes stare from the shadows. Ah, that explains the prince's poker face. The corridor trembles as the orc thrashes, but the prince stays cool. All those eyes. They're waiting for an opening. The ones on the plains will be worse. Focus, this is training. He turns to Simon, still shaking. Learn how to kill an orc. Mana blades flare to life. The orc rips down a burning lantern and hurls it. A mage calmly blocks it with a shimmering barrier. The smoke clears. The prince hasn't moved an inch. The orc hesitates, and that's the opening. A knight drives a glowing blue blade straight through its chest. The beast collapses. Simon stares at his shaking hands. Whack. Well done, the prince says. But he adds bluntly, don't feel heroic. This one was crippled. Real orcs won't be this easy. He nods toward Haim. Be grateful for the experience. It'll save your life. Haim bows his head, voice heavy. These creatures don't deserve your chivalry. He leads them deeper into the dungeon, toward a sealed chamber. The ones you fought were imitations. What the orcs do in their camps is far worse. He opens the door. Inside are pale, trembling half-orcs, twisted children born from human captives. The knights recoil. The prince studies Haim. Do you hate orcs? Haim's answer is immediate. Until the day I die. The prince sees the grief behind his eyes, the pain of a man who once recovered his son's corpse from an orc den. Everyone has a mortal enemy. For Haim, it's the orcs. For the prince, it's the empire that destroyed him. Some scars never fade. Morning arrives. Haim approaches with Corey. Your Highness, take him with you. The prince nods, understanding more than Corey expects. Your skills are valuable. Don't worry. I know what's on your mind. Knight reports the border is ahead. The prince looks toward the mountains. The monster hordes will be as dangerous as the orcs. We must exterminate them. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a merchant caravan tries to move quietly. Hoofsteps thunder. A group of riders bursts from the trees, blades flashing, eyes cold. One swings down again. The merchant's frozen in terror as the next strike falls. A new threat enters the stage, and the bloodshed has only just begun. The unit rides through the morning forest, sunlight flickering across armor and banners. At the front, the prince rides calmly, a picture of composure, until he notices a small commotion behind him. Corey, nervous as always, is bouncing on a tiny pony like a kid who stole the wrong mount. Hernando rides beside him on a proper horse, doing his best to keep people from asking too many questions. Because once the soldiers realize Corey is a half-orc, the rumors will spread faster than wildfire. But the prince isn't worried. Hernando's got this, whether he wants it or not. He studies a map and calls Jared. The young knight gallops up, eager. You'll handle reconnaissance now. I marked the location. Go check it. Jared squints at the map. Isn't this where the bandits are? The prince smiles like a man who already knows the ending. They run when chased. You'll be fine. Jared hesitates, so the prince leans in with that sly, devastatingly effective smirk. What's wrong? Not confident. I didn't expect that from someone as talented as you. Jared straightens immediately. Mission accepted. Ego repaired. As they ride, a quiet knight asks the prince a question he clearly didn't expect to hear. What do you fight for? That freezes the forest more than any monster could. The prince lets the silence sit before answering. Softly, I haven't heard that question in a long time. Finally, he says, for the safety of Briol. The knight nods with respect. And the prince actually smiles genuinely. Not a bad answer at all. The scene shifts to a bandit camp hidden in the woods, tents scattered. Crates everywhere, the usual we're terrible at cleaning setup. A captured scout lies tied on the ground, begging for mercy. One boot to the ribs later, he's told to shut up. The prince crouches beside him. Voice cool. You should value your own life more. Then Jared rushes back, confirming the location of the camp with binoculars. The prince praises him. Then turns to the captive. You were sent alone for reconnaissance. The trembling man nods. My boss sent me alone. The prince's eyes narrow. Interesting. Raymond inspects the prisoner further, until a faint red glow pulses beneath the man's cloak. "Oh, wonderful," Raymond mutters, ripping off the necklace. "What magic is embedded in this?" "I don't know. The boss gave it to me." Raymond sighs. So the boss knows something. He straightens, a dangerous smile crossing his lips. "Then I'll capture him myself." The hunt begins. The sun bleeds across the forest as Jared reports that all routes are blocked and scouts are in place. The prince spurs his horse forward. "If you're late, you won't get anything." "W8, Your Highness." Too late. The prince explodes into the bandit camp like a human battering ram. Bandits stare in horror as a fully armored knight crashes through their defenses at full gallop. "Nice to meet you, bandits." Night falls. Jared and the soldiers rush into the now silent clearing. Bodies scattered. Weapons dropped, camp in ruins. They're sitting casually on a fallen bandit like he's waiting for dinner. "Is there, Prince? You're too late." Jared storms up, furious. "Why did you act alone?" "It was reckless." The prince stands, unfazed. "Then follow me at the right time." Raymond gives the report. No survivors. No casualties on our end. The prince brightens. "Good. Let's steal their meat and eat." Soon the fire crackles with skewered meat. Jared sniffs it skeptically. It doesn't smell good. "That's the charm," the prince laughs. "You just don't know how to enjoy it yet." As spirits settle and exhaustion hits, a knight explains their next destination. Before reaching Balshed, they'll cross paths with another nation at Gid, the Holy Kingdom. That name alone darkens the prince's expression. Rumor says the commander of the allied forces, this year, is the Holy Kingdom's princess, a woman wrapped in shining armor and politics sharper than her sword. With her influence weakened back home, she's desperate to prove herself. Desperate enough to do anything during this alliance. Night settles over the camp as the men wind down from the long march. Raymond briefs the prince on tomorrow's route, explaining that before reaching Balshad, they'll pass through Gid, where they'll cross paths with the Holy Kingdom. At dawn, they reach the fortified trade city of Gid, the main supply hub for their armies. Strict rules, tight defenses, the kind of place where one wrong move gets you legally executed before lunch. The prince orders his men to camp outside and enters the city alone, greeted warmly by the old city lord. They exchange small talk about the war, Briol's reputation, and the king's accomplishments. Then a servant nervously whispers something to the lord, and his expression shifts. The princess of the Holy Kingdom has arrived. "Your Highness, would you like to meet her?" The prince shrugs, relaxed. "Sure." Moments later, the doors open, and Sivila Arsane, second princess of the Holy Kingdom, strides in with her knights. Armor shining, posture perfect, aura screaming authority. She scans the room, then fixes on the casually seated young man. "Are you the Lord's servant?" The prince blinks, confused. The city lord flinches. Before he can clarify, Sivila raises a hand, politely asking the lord to leave so she can speak with the servant alone. Her knight immediately erupts, demanding silence and respect, especially from someone who hasn't even bothered standing up. The prince just leans back, and finally drops the bomb. "Oh, I'm the Third Prince of Briol." The room stops breathing. Sivila's face drains. Her knights nearly snap their backs, bowing, and the city lord looks like he's one gasp away from fainting. The prince groans dramatically, blaming himself for wearing clothes that make him look like a traveler who accidentally wandered into royalty. Once the panic settles, Sivila sits stiffly beside him. She nervously asks if her armor makes her look cheap. He reassures her it doesn't, and they essentially reboot the conversation. Yuri asks her age. She's 20. He's 18. He grabs her hand cheerfully, declaring they're the same generation and therefore friends. Sivilla blinks, unsure what to do with this level of social chaos, while the city lord beams as if he'd just witnessed diplomatic history. Yuri asks about her forces. They'll arrive tomorrow. He warns her about orcs near the border, explaining that despite their size, they ambush extremely well. Sivilla insists her soldiers are disciplined, while the city lord laughs confidently, though even he sounds like he's trying to reassure himself. Later, wandering through Gid's markets, Yuri checks his coat and pulls out the red crystal he bought earlier, the one the merchant claimed could lure orcs. He asks his steward if the shop was the only one selling it. It was. Inside, the bald merchant becomes defensive when questioned, insisting he never lies and that the crystal's power is real. No other vendors have it, meaning someone likely bought the rest. Yuri studies the crystal, expression calm but calculating, already piecing together a pattern. As they continue walking, his attendant suddenly points toward a tavern. Several Briol soldiers are slipping inside like guilty kids sneaking snacks. Yuri's eyes narrow. A Briol soldier gambling in broad daylight? Absolutely not. With righteous confidence and maybe a little excitement, he storms toward the bar. "We can't call ourselves a proper force if we ignore behavior like this," he declares. His attendant nods frantically, struggling to keep up. Meanwhile, outside an inn, Princess Savala speaks with her knights. Everything is calm until Vice Captain Fennec steps forward, smiling with that polite, poisonous tone unique to people who think they're the smartest in the room. He mocks Yuri's leadership, Briol's reputation, even the way Yuri dresses. Finally, he suggests that once the Orc War is over, Briol might return home with one less prince. Sivilla snaps sharply. "That's enough. Stop speaking." Her knights fall silent instantly. Even Fennec steps back, chastised. Inside the tavern, Fennec barges into a back room and unleashes fury on the gambling soldiers. Until a hand lands on his shoulder. He turns. Yuri stands behind him, sunlight framing him like a divine warning. Calm, amused, dangerous. And with a soft, almost playful smile, he asks, "You? What's your name?" Inside the tavern, tension spikes as the prince steps forward with a calm, cutting stare. He looks directly at the agitated vice captain. "What's your name?" Fennec freezes. The prince raises a brow, voice sharper. "Sir, I asked for your name. Does the Holy Kingdom not acknowledge rank?" Silence crushes the room, just as Fennec fumbles for an answer. The doors burst open. Princess Sivilla strides in like a storm. "Sir Fennec, didn't you say you were on patrol?" His arrogance evaporates instantly. "My apologies." He scurries out, leaving Sivilla behind with a frustrated sigh. "I'm sorry. Let me apologize on his behalf." The prince waves it off casually, unbothered. Sivilla mutters, "It's impossible to control every subordinate unless you're some saint." At the door, she pauses. Then, "I'll repay this next time." "Sure," he replies, calm as ever. The mood flips and moments later, he's playfully chasing his knights around the tavern like it's a comedy skit. A perfect cooldown after diplomatic chaos. Outside, trouble brews again. Fennec confronts Savala, accusing her of getting close to the Briol prince. She shoots back, "Is that the issue right now?" Before he can explode, a knight gallops toward them, nearly collapsing. Urgent news. The main force was attacked by orcs. The entire street freezes. A knight asks, "Princess, shall we go immediately?" An older noble suggests asking Briol for backup. Fennec snaps. "What? The Holy Kingdom handles its own. Are you saying we'd lose to orcs?" Sivilla silences both sides. "I understand your concern, Lord. I'll accept your goodwill." She raises her blade. We move out. Her force thunders into the night. Back in Gid, the local lord watches them leave, muttering that the Holy Kingdom is stubbornness, especially their sub-commander. He sends a messenger to the third prince immediately in Briol's camp. Lanterns flicker as the prince reads the incoming report. The Holy Kingdom's main force was ambushed. The Lord of Gid requests our aid. The knight asks, not the Holy Kingdom. The prince's expression darkens. They must have insisted. He issues orders without hesitation. Raymond salutes. Then he calls out to another soldier unexpectedly. You? What's your name? Aroy, Your Highness. Good. Go to the tavern near Talisman Market and gather our knights. Only the first 10 are accepted. Roy charges off into the night. The prince tucks away a small wrapped item, glances at the moon with a faint smirk, and swings onto his horse. Well then, shall we go for a night stroll? Moments later, he's riding at the head of the formation, cloak snapping behind him. You all still drunk? A knight hollers, no sir. The prince laughs. Beside him, Jared looks pale, but insists he's fine. Lauren bursts with admiration. Your Highness, forgiving the paladins. Extending help. Your heart is so broad. The prince stares at him, baffled. It's not really like that, but he softens. Your loyalty is appreciated. They don't get far before a scout shouts, Your Highness. I see them ahead. Under the moonlight, silhouettes crest the hill. It's the Holy Kingdom's paladin order. Jared steadies his voice. Everyone, this is our first battle against orcs. At the front, the third prince lifts his reins. Blue mana flares around horse and rider, rising like fire. His voice cuts through the night. From now on, I will be the first to enter battle, and the last to leave. Mana erupts, sending a shockwave through the ground as his horse rears. Nitrogen monoxide, one is to get hurt. The knights roar back as their charge ignites the plains, the night splitting open before them.
And that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this recap and want to see what happens next, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming parts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading everything and your support really helps this channel grow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.